Hey!
Yeah,
How's everyone doing tonight?
stuff is going crazy right now.
Brandon's having technical difficulties.
Such a bad day today.
All right, guys. So tonight we have Mike from Mike's Monitors. We're super excited to have him on tonight. Not only does he have a beautiful collection of monitors, but he also works with this awesome project called Polygem Zoopoxy. All the information is in the description down below. It's an amazing project. It's used by keepers and even zoos kind of all over the country, and it just makes beautiful showpiece enclosures pretty much. But without further ado, we're going to get into that a little more later. Brandon is frozen a little bit. Now he's back.
Yeah,
Here's Mike. Hey, Mike. How you doing tonight?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good.
all right, we're good. We're good, man.
Hi, Brandon.
Brandon's a
What's
little
up,
late
Mike?
to the party. Me and Mike were both 30 minutes early, but it's okay. No, just give him
Yeah,
Brandon
right.
crap.
Well,
I
I'm
need to
low
buy
tech, so I got to make sure all my stuff is good. I can't fix it like you guys. So
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, right. So then I can't. Liz, the script's on you. I can't see anything.
All right. All on me tonight, guys.
It's
This
all
should
on
be
you.
fun.
I got nothing.
Maybe we'll keep on track a little better tonight, since, or worse, because Brandon doesn't have a script to go by. We'll
Yeah,
have to see.
I know that I had all the best questions because my girlfriend Ashley is a crazy lizard lady, and I'm a snake guy. So she had all the good questions.
well, either way, snakes, lizards, it's all reptiles, and it's one love, man.
There
That's
you
right,
go.
man.
Exactly. All right. Well, Mike, we'll just have you do like a little introduction about yourself. Where you're located. If this is your full-time job, do you have is it a side job? How does it all work for you?
Yeah, my name is Mike Stefani. I live up here in Trever, Wisconsin, in Cheeseland, Winterland, whatever you want to call it. That's me. Yeah. As far as I'm retired cement finisher, I was a cement finisher for 30 years. It pretty well broke me down. So now I stay home and I work with the lizards, and that's pretty much what I do. And one thing about keeping verandahs is, snakes are great. You could maybe go away for a long weekend. I don't have that luxury with these animals. They need, daily care. I feed pretty much every day. Water changes every day. So anything you could do in the monitor world to make those chores easier, it goes a long way. It really helps. Like I said, automatic drains on your water tubs. In my youth, I used to, those big mortar tubs, I used to fill those up halfway with water, and, your lizards pooping them, like water monitors, Varanus joviensis, peach throat monitors. Certain monitors really foul their water daily. Like, not only daily, you can clean that water, and as soon as you refill that bowl, they go in there and you got to do it again. So, once you get used to that, but I used to schlep them tubs and flop them and slosh them all over the place. And then, as I'm getting a little older, I'm like, I can't do that no more. So I put drains on everything. It goes right to my sub pump and then out the door. So
That's good
anything
stuff.
anything to make it easier, especially, like I said, certain species, you really need to simplify your water changes.
Yeah. I have an Asian water monitor, so I can vouch for that.
There you go.
He actually has.
Go on.
He actually has two different water sources. I keep a big one in his cage and then a small one, just because usually he'll go to the bathroom in the big one, but then he doesn't as much in the small one because he can't fit all the way in it. But that way he's always got fresh drinking water.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, that's good. See, that's good for people to know too, because, there's more than one way to skin a cat with, when it comes to, husbandry with your verandas and stuff. And anything that makes that kind of stuff easier is worth its weight in gold,
Yes. Definitely. So what kind of different... Go ahead, Brandon.
No, I was going to ask what's first. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, so what kind of other monitors, like what all monitor species do you keep? Because I know you have several different species?
Yeah. Currently, I keep Varanus coming eye, Philippines golden water monitors, which to me, they're the most beautiful Varanus species there is. The contrast between, highlighter yellow and jet black, in my opinion, it just can't be beat. But, I've never really been into Australian monitors. I have Mertens now. I've been pretty successful breeding those. I've hatched out a lot of babies. And because of all the success I've had with the Mertens, it's offered me, my wife is really good. Of course she wants money, and I really could care less about money. So if I sell a few and I could trade a few and get some stuff for myself, that's how I built up my Audatria collection, was trading out some Mertens for, whatever. I have Ackies, I have Kimberly Rocks, I have Pilbarensis, which are fast becoming one of my favorites. They are so beautiful. Yeah, and if anybody goes to my webpage, if you click on the photo of the species, it'll give you information and more photos of, just a brief husbandry info and maybe where they come from and stuff like that. So, and I have Gill and I have King Gorhams. What else do I got? I got Peach Throats, and that's it, and the Mertens.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like a lot, but man, the work involved, that's a lot of work for just me. So some people have massive collections, and I don't know how they do it, but maybe they got employees or whatever, but I'm here by myself. So
no, it sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
Like you named off so many. So okay, I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to monitors, but I'm pretty good at reptile knowledge and herpetological science. So you just named off a whole lot of different species. I take it those are different locality of the same species, or are they subspecies as well?
Well, what I have is, all of the Australian dwarfs, they're in the family Audatria. So your Ackies, your Kimberly Rocks, your King Gorhams, Gill and I, Pilbarensis, those are all Audatrias, and those are Australian. And then you have the Mertens, which are, I believe they fall into the family of Varanus.
Yes, I know that. I like the Varanus stuff.
Yeah, and then the Peach Throats are a New Guinea species, and the Coming Eye are from the Philippines, Mindanao.
Okay, that's dope. So can you, just for us, because most of our viewers are ball python guys, so for us ignorant snake folk, right? Can you just a real quick brief synopsis of the difference between locality, species and subspecies, because they're not morphs. That's what a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, no, they're not morphs. It's really the taxonomy of varanids. I've been in this game a long time, and I've seen name changes, and it's crazy what they do. I mean, I understand why they do it. Common names are just so misleading, and if you call an Ackie a spiny tail and somebody sees whatever a brevicauda with a spiny tail, they, you know what I mean? That's confusing. So the Latin names really help out. But yeah, there's the King Gorham is one. I got to say, Varanus King Gorham is one that I believe is they have a natural occurring color morph leucism, and man, those things they're gorgeous. They're wild types, but those the leucistic ones, man, they're white with blaze orange backs. They're gorgeous, and it seems like most that people have in captivity are usually het. Whether this comes from the wild, I'm not real sure, or people have, line bred them or whatever the case may be. But mine are all wild types, and I've got like 4 or 5 clutches in the incubator right now, and I am just dying for these eggs to hatch because I'm hoping to God so bad that I get, a couple leucistics.
Dude,
Because
I'm like
I don't want
really
to have to
excited
buy
Yes,
them.
for
I
you.
hope so.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be so badass.
I just want to see one now. Like
Yeah. Oh,
they
I
sound
wish.
so awesome.
Yeah, like I mean, they're really nice too because they're from those red orange cliffs, the rocky outcroppings in the center, north, and west in Australia, like the Kimberley regions, all around in that area. And they all have like the Kimberley rocks, the Pilbarensis, and the Kingorums. They have like a red hue to them, and it's so beautiful. Like the Pilbarensis, their face, their shoulders, and into their forearms is this orange red color. And with the cages I build with the Zoopoxy, I make the rocky outcroppings and I color them like terracotta colors and oranges and reds and browns. It's all mixed in. It's actually pretty detailed paint job. But when those things are sticking out of a crevice, they could be right in front of you, and they blend in so well with their habitat. And like the Kingorums, their whole back is like that. It almost looks like if you put red Kool-Aid in a spray bottle and sprayed it over the lizard. It's not like deep in them, it's like on them, and it's just gorgeous.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
It sounds super pretty. And I've seen several of the species when we came up to get the Zoopoxy, and they are super awesome animals. I mean, they're just gorgeous. So we're talking, a dwarf species of monitor, right? They're smaller.
Right.
So I mean, we know like Asian water monitors, right? Get like 5 or 6 feet. They're big size. So dwarf, are we talking like 2 feet, 3 feet? Like how big are these dwarves?
That depends on the species. You got Gillenite that could get up to like 16 inches, and then the Kingorums are like 9 inches. I have Kingorums that are, for lack of having anything, the length of a cigarette, and they're mature adults. And then I have, my coming eye when my male is, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 pounds, and he's 5 foot. He's just huge. And when you look at the Audatrias and their behavior, to watch these like Ackies or Kimberley Rocks, any of them, their behaviors are so much like a Komodo dragon that when you look at that, you're like, wow, this thing is related to a Komodo dragon. And they act the same. They'll walk around with their heads up. They puff their neck when they're pissed off. And it's just like having a tiny little Komodo dragon. They're really pretty, though. I mean, Komodos are pretty. They're coveted for their own reasons. But
yeah, their size is what's impressive, right? Like they're just beautiful because they're just monstrous. Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome. Yeah, so they're relatively small, right? Like you could have, like you're saying, they act just like a Komodo dragon pretty much, right? Like the behaviors are very similar, but you don't need to have a 100-pound animal to enjoy like everything that there is to enjoy with owning a monitor, right? Like a normal person could have one in their house without dedicating a bedroom.
It's an apartment. It's an apartment Komodo dragon.
Yes.
Any of the dwarfs are great because, the Mertens, they're a specialized animal because of their water requirements.
Yes.
And not everybody is going to build a big, huge 300-gallon water feature. And that's a shame because you get so much behavior watching a Mertens under the water because they do, so much under the water. They breed underwater, feed, hunt, they court, they fight. They dominate for, hierarchy. And it's just, if you have them in a big tub and you don't have a viewing window, I mean, that's great for the lizards, but you're cheating yourself. You put a window on there, now the animal's happy and you're real happy because, I don't know, nowadays TV sucks. I can watch my monitors all day long.
Yes. No, I totally agree. We have the Asian water monitor, which he's going to have a big opening in his pond as well, right? But we've seen him swimming around and stuff. the Mertens are on another level when it comes to like a water monitor. I mean, those things are so quick, and their color is so similar to like the water. Like, you know, they got the little dots on them that make them look like little rays of light almost through the water. I mean, it's almost like you can't see them. It's like, holy crap. They're wet, but they just disappear. It's really cool.
They blend in so well, and then like the sunlight radiating into water and all that flash, you know, like when you look into a pool.
Yeah.
If you're looking like in the wild, I've seen several, you know, videos and all kinds of pictures and stuff, but like when they're still, you can see them sitting there in the water, but when you scare them and they make a move and they turn one way or the other, you don't know. You have no clue which way they went. They blend in really well.
Yes. Yeah, they're definitely my next species that I hope to get for monitor wise. I mean, they're super cool.
Well, I have some raise ups. I held back 5, and man, these 5 that I held back, of course, in my own opinion, these are the nicest ones that I hatched. They're flecking. I wouldn't even call it flecking. Most of the other ones are flecked, so a lot of small, irregular little flecking. The ones that I held back are their golden dots are still small yet, but they're almost polka dotted. So that's what I'm going to try to breed for a polka dotted line. They're beautiful, and they're, like I said, they're not real random spots all over. They're really kind of orderly, and that makes it look really polka dotted, and they're awesome animals. I was just cleaning out their enclosure today. They're just over a year old, and I had one male courting a female, so I love them.
There you go.
So then in these species, there are phenotypic traits that can carry over, almost like chondros or green trees and stuff like that in the arboreal pythons. It's the same in the monitors, I take it then.
Yeah, it is. Certain species can be quite variable, and then other species are pretty, routine specific down the line. Like with your coming eye, their pattern varies greatly, but their coloration is pretty much the same. So while you're looking at, some animals have, a lot of yellow in their head down into their neck and shoulders, and other ones have a big temporal stripe. Some have a reduced temporal stripe. So it's hit and miss with them too. So
okay, but you can breed for a phenotypic look though.
You could. It's pretty. The varandid world, the breeding and line breeding stuff like that is really, even after all these years, it's pretty. Just breeding is an accomplishment. So, like I know Kevin McCurley over there at Nerd, he's doing a lot of color morphs and stuff, which you can aim for something, and you could work at getting it. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not much for color morphs. I never was. I like more like locale specific, classic examples of anything. I don't care if it's an Okatee corn. You can keep all that candy cane stuff. I want a Jasper County Okatee corn that looks like it came from Jasper County.
You like the pure bloodlines.
I do. I always have. I mean, there's some beautiful albinos and pieds and stuff like that. And I appreciate them. I do. Don't get me wrong. If I popped out an albino Mertens, I'm not going to, say, I got to get rid of this. No, I would, but that's not my goal.
Right.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That is awesome.
We talk about this all the time in the reptile community, where the amazing thing about it is there's something for everyone, whether it be the type of animal you're keeping, or the fact that you breed for localities, or you breed for color morphs, or you like a snake that's a solid color, or a snake that's 10,000 different colors, whatever. There's always something for everyone. Like talk about the Mertens, right? Like they're polka dotted, but the coming guy are more striped in a way, right? They've got the
Yeah.
banding. So there's just something for everyone. You might want an Asian water monitor, or you might want a small dwarf monitor. You know, there's something for everyone, and that's the awesome thing about the industry.
Yeah, and the thing that's, you know, it's great with such a variety of people and interests. It is nice to see all the color morphs and the locale stuff, and, you know, designer stuff. You know, some things I could really do without. Hybridized animals. I mean, that's, you know, I just don't.
The hybrids.
Yeah. I mean, I actually crossed a green tree and a black tree. I did it once. I had a lone male green tree, and this was way back in the late 90s, I believe. And I couldn't back then. I mean, it was rare to find any animals, you know, let alone, you have your pick of females. That was unheard of. So I had a few animals that turned out to be males. They were young when I got them, and they just turned out to be males. But I had a trio of black tree monitors, 2 females and a male. And my male green tree, his name was G Monkey, because he'd sit on my shoulder like a parrot. He was so cool. But one day I was cleaning that cage out, and, you know, he could smell the pheromones that the females were throwing. So he was looking all crazy at me, and he's looking crazy at the Bacari. I said, yeah, go ahead, jump off and get in there. So he went in there, and immediately he picked one of the females, and he started courting her, and then he locked up with her. And I don't know, a couple hours later, I pulled him out, put him in his back in his shower stall. And, you know, a month, whatever went by, 3 weeks, and she started swelling up. But of course, she was in with a male black tree as well. So she laid a clutch of 3 eggs, and those 3 eggs hatched out green. So I knew G Monkey got the job done. But that's you know, back then it was, nobody even knew if it could be done, and it was done, and I got a lot of heat for it. But again, you know, I don't want to seem like a hypocrite. I did it the one time, and I would never do that again. But it is what it is. It was cool to know, you know.
Yeah, no, back then we lacked the knowledge. I remember the reptile world in the 90s. It was very savage, and it was very ignorant. Can I say it was very ignorant because of what we know now? Back then it wasn't ignorant. It was common knowledge. But now, like looking back, like all the dumbass shit we did, like, but that's how you learn. We humans are species. We're a trial species.
What's crazy, like, I started off as a kid, you know, I would collect stuff in the neighborhood and the pond and whatnot. And then I started breeding some colubrids and some rainbow boas. And then, you know, I was never really a lizard guy. And somebody traded me a rainbow boa baby for a peach throat monitor. And once I got that peach throat monitor, I was like, holy shit. I just figured everything was either a Nile or a Savannah. So when I started researching, because it is unusual to me at the time, peach throat monitor, I just started doing all kinds of research, and man, slowly but surely the rainbows went, all the desert rat snakes went, and I've been working with monitors ever since. They grow on you, man. If you know, Liz, you got that one, and it's hard not to. You're already thinking about Mertens and stuff.
It's
people
super
get
hard.
one.
The funny thing about it is I never wanted, like, I wasn't a big lizard person either. Like, I'd had leopard geckos and bearded dragons and, like, the little stuff before that. You know, I think everyone at some point probably has owned something similar. And our Asian water monitor was just thrown on our table at a show by a guy that didn't want him anymore. And my first thought was, I don't have room for this animal. You know, like, what am I going to do? At the time, he was only like maybe 10 inches long. You know, he was small. And my first thought was to call our local zoos. I have connections in both of our reptiles here. And I was like, you know, we'll donate them. It'll be great. You know, they'll take good care of them. And on the car ride home, 3-hour car ride from Chicago, I just fell in love with him. I was like, I can't get rid of this thing. He's my best friend. And if people ask me now what my favorite animal in my collection is, it's my monitor, hands down.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just the
Yeah.
coolest.
They're so intelligent. They get to know you. They recognize you. They recognize your voice and your routine. And like, you know, when you were here, when my coming eye, they were in that walk-in enclosure, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
And you guys went in there, and my male was looking at you kind of funny, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. He's that's what I'm saying. They recognize you. They recognize strangers, and they're cautious.
Sure.
But yeah, they're just so full of personality and like they're smart, you know. It's just something about them.
Lizards,
and I was very naive.
Intelligent.
Yeah, I was very naive. I didn't know anything about monitors, and I got my guy. I never planned on getting them, you know. I mean, I knew a little bit about them, but not much. And I remember like having some people come over, and he was in a cage in our main area, kind of in a little showcase cage. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, he's so cool. Like, can I touch him? Are they nice?" I'm like, "He's puppy dog. Like, my 5-year-old plays with him." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." They opened the cage and he puffed up. And I was like, what? Like, what are you doing? And, then I started looking into it more about the fact that they're not, like, they recognize certain people. They are intelligent enough to make the difference between one person to another, where all my other reptiles, right, were just like, they were either good with people or they weren't. There was no like in between.
Exactly. So, and like with the Asian water monitor that you have, I'm here alone. I have some people come and, check out my stuff. So I don't have a real lot of my sons come down there, and they know my sons, and they're good with my sons are good with Karen and pretty much everyone who lives here. But you've seen he was a little strange with you, and like yours, in a situation like you have, you're going to have a retail spot. And if you put him there, and the more people he sees, they become like dogs, actually,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we actually decided to keep him for our educational program. We have several animals that we take around to like schools and stuff and do educational programs. He's harness trained, so he walks around on a leash with a harness, and we were doing that a lot. I was taking him out to the local pet stores. He was super chill with people. Then COVID 2020 lockdown hit. So he still does pretty good, but now that it's warming up again, we're starting to take him back out more. He's still a little jumpy around other people, but he's definitely not aggressive by any means, just like your boy. At no point was he really like, get out of my space. He was just kind of like, who are you? What are you doing in here? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, if I wasn't there, would he charge you? I don't know, because I'm always there. But, there is that possibility, because he's not as socialized as like yours. And, but again, like, I'm kind of hands off with my animals. Of course, if I pick them up, they're not afraid of me. And if I have to move them, I move them. But I don't do the, little baby talk and the dog whistle. I don't do none of that stuff with my animals. As a matter of fact, today, my female coming eye, she got some weird little hair up her butt. I mean, she's been in that cage like 2-3 years. And all of a sudden, today she wanted to get behind the water dish. Well, I have some styrofoam stuck in there. It's just enough to deter them, Well, she was determined to get in there today. So I had to build, I use that old barnwood. I built a barnwood dam around the water dish so she wouldn't get in there. But yeah, they just, they get these little quirks and stuff. They're very intelligent. They have their own personalities, and it's all pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes they find that one spot that's been there forever, and they're like, "Oh, this is mine." I'm now obsessed with this. So
wow, look at this! I never knew it was there. Yeah. Come on, man, give me a break. Yeah. You know what? I was having a rough day, so I was like, "Man, you know what? I think you're just doing that to make me mad." So I had another extra chore to do, but with the dam, But it is what it is.
All right, Tracy had an awesome question for us. She said, do the colors and patterns change from hatchling to adults?
On some species, yes, they do. Varanus coming eye is a perfect example. Like I have a holdback here that just hatched out maybe a within the last week, and they come out. They're black and yellow, and they could be barred or spotted and barred. But as they mature, their back will turn more yellow, and they'll lose some of that black. So yeah, they change quite a bit. Some people, when they show me hatchlings they got from me, like last year, I'm like, oh my God, I should have held that one back, but you don't know because but this one here that I'm holding back, it is so orange. Yes. It's orange in the face, in the neck, and then the sides right behind the front legs. So I'm going to hang on to that one for a little while and see what it does. But
so that's not, I was just about to ask, because that's not normal then for them to be that orange when they first hatch out?
Some of them come out with varying degrees of orange. Most lose the orange, but this one is probably the orangest one I've ever hatched. So
yeah, there's like no yellow. Like he's all orange. There's very, very little.
Yeah, he's got like yellow on the top of his head and the top of his back, but the sides of his face, the neck, and the behind the front arms, orange. It's just beautiful.
That's badass.
Yeah. And then you talk about that animal. You've seen my male. A big, beautiful black and yellow animal, or black and orange. Yeah. They're just, to me, they're just awesome.
Your male almost looks like he's blushing all the time because he's got like this really nice orange, kind of right behind like his mouth, almost kind of, and then he goes to like a really, really pretty highlighter yellow, like almost dark. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how he got his name. His name is Lemonhead.
There you go.
and I normally don't name my animals, but like he got a name. My female coming eye has no name. My it's not really names. I use them more for like when I'm talking to my sons or Karen, identification, like my Mertens. My male Mertens is male Mertens. And I have one female who has a kink at the end of her tail, a real slight kink. She's kink tail. That automatically defaults the other one to straight tail. So, and then my male peach throat is slab a lizard because he's just a big lump. So,
slab a lizard.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Super cool. So, kind of walk us through, and I'm sure it's different per species, but just kind of give us like a generalization of how your breeding process goes for these animals, like kind of start to finish. Like, obviously, if you've got like breeder secrets, you don't have to share that stuff, but just your generalization of kind of how the process goes.
I gotta say that I've been doing monitors for so long, and this goes back to what you were saying before about the ignorance of what we used to do.
Yep.
Man, I do what I've always done with monitors, and people look for a formula like, whatever, colubrids, you cool them down in the fall, you bring them up in the spring, you introduce them. There's, for me anyways, I'm not that smart of a guy. I just take care of I support my animals to the best of my abilities. And in doing so, you throw them into a cycle, like, of course, heat, light. I don't ever change my light cycles. It's 12 on, 12 off. Heat and the amount of food is what I found really throws them into their cycles. Just like, you think about whatever, a peach throat has a rainy season, and that really helps in breeding with those. But as long as you provide them with high heat and a lot of food, they pretty much think it's springtime, so they know that there's enough food support to support eggs. So they go into cycles, and then when they go into cycles, there's no stopping the males. They just do their thing.
Yep.
Yeah, and you house your monitor pairs together all the time, right? Or do you ever separate, or how does that work?
I keep them together. All the time. The Mertens are always together. The peach throats are always together. My coming eye, I did move them from the walk-in enclosure back into their other enclosure, because in that enclosure, I would walk in there with a bucket of food and I'd start feeding him. Of course, my male is just a savage,
Yep.
and he just eats and eats. And he, you don't want fat males in Varanids because they get lazy and they lose interest in breeding because they're just, digesting food. So I put them back in their other two cages that have the pass through, that little cage pass through. So I'll lure him out and I'll close the thing. I'll feed him. I'll feed her. And then I'll take the door off, the cage thing off. They pass through and he goes into her cage and they're together. When they breed and I can tell that she's gravid, I will pull him out of there just because to go in there and get the eggs with two beasts like that is,
Yeah.
my female, she'll sit right there next to me as I'm digging her eggs up and just look at me like, another one. Where the male, he wouldn't be attacking me, but he'd be waiting for me to get down to the nest. And when I'm taking an egg out, he'd be down in there. So I got to pull him out. So it's just, those are easier for me to cut him out,
Right.
But the other ones, I haven't had any problems.
Yeah, because I actually saw your post earlier because the males actually eat the clutches if they find them, right? Like, no problem.
Yeah.
Like,
My male Mertens, I mean, he's sired over 50 hatchlings, and just last week or whatever it was, I had to go into school for something, so I was about an hour and a half late coming back. Usually when I get back from dropping my daughter off, the lights are just turning on, so all the animals are waking up and they're going to their basking spots. But this was an hour and a half later, so they were already fired up and doing their thing, and it's my fault totally because I should have dug her eggs up at night rather than waiting till the morning. So when I came back, I noticed Straight Tail, which is the less dominant of the two females. She gets a little frightened because the other Mertens they have a crazy feeding response, and believe me, when they start feeding, it's just like green zips everywhere. They're just boom, 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 bouncing off the walls. Yeah, the one time I had there was a dried turd on the ground on the basking spot, and as I'm feeding them, I fed to the left side of the cage, and the male was on the top of the nest box I have there. And I don't know, he must have thought that I put a mouse there or a quail, whatever it was. He picked up this turd. I'm like, no, gulp. He swallowed it. And it was like a dry turd, it was like a fuzzy mouse turd. And he ate it, and nothing ever happened. So when he got those eggs, I got people telling me, oh my God, 9 eggs. And, they're pretty expensive. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to get mad at him. That was my fault. And believe me, for 3 days, I couldn't have put a mouse in there that he would have ate. He was just bloated. He had probably 9 eggs in him. I've recovered 5 already that he's passed. So he ate quite a few, man.
Yeah. So, how they pass him around, at least with my monitor, if I feed him, because I'll feed him like our ball python slugs.
Yeah.
He'll pass the casting of the egg, like the shell, right? But they digest everything inside. So
exactly. Well, you know what's crazy? That's how they are with the quail eggs I feed them. Shell's gone, everything but that membrane from the inside. When he ate his girlfriend or whatever, her eggs, the first one I found, it was floating in the water. I pulled it out and it was obviously digested. But man, it almost looked like a perfect egg. I don't know if it's reptile eggs or what, but it didn't break down. So it was like he got nothing out of it. He got no nutrients out of it. A few others that he passed, you could see that he broke as he was chewing them,
Yeah.
So those came out like leathery shells, but the one egg was it was like a perfect egg. I was so pissed.
So then what's your like average clutch size? Like, not specifically yours, but in general, like if I was to breed some monitors, I'm sure that varies by species and female size. What's about normal for your clutch size? And then
Well,
what's your
that,
incubation method as well?
oh, okay. Well, these are all good questions. It's really species specific on the amount of eggs. Like my first clutch for my coming eye, which is a really big lizard, and they have really big eggs. I believe it was like 6. Okay, and then
Okay.
the next was like 9, and then 10 and 12. So as they get bigger, and I would imagine, their body becomes accustomed to it, and
Yeah.
their clutch sizes increase. My king gorams, which are literally the length of a cigarette,
Yeah.
laid her first clutch. One of the females' first clutch was 2, and these 2 eggs were about half the size of a regular M&M, not a peanut, a regular M&M. Okay, so around
Oh,
that
shit.
size. Yeah.
That's
Now
so
check
little,
this out.
dude.
Now up to her 4th clutch, she's kicking out 6 eggs, and when you put 6 eggs in the incubator end to end, it's twice the size of the king goram.
That's crazy.
And it is crazy. And then like the Mertens, I've been averaging about 14 eggs per female. So, and again, they're mature adults.
Yeah. That's
And
so what's your incubation method? I'm curious about that.
okay, my incubation method is I always build my own stuff. I
Yeah.
like it. I've always have since I was a kid. Well, when I got with Karen here, I'm a junk guy. When I see something cool in the garbage, I don't care if it's a ottoman, a mini fridge, whatever. I'm like, man, I can make some out of that. So I take
That's
it.
art. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
art, man.
So we're driving down the street one day, and there was a nice Coca-Cola, like 7-Eleven type cooler out there with the Pepsi Cola logos all over it. And I'm like, Karen, you got to pull over. I'm going to get that for our incubator. She goes, I don't want the garbage. I don't want the junk. We'll buy one. So we went and bought one. I'm not going to name the company. And it was very expensive. And I put my first 2 clutches of coming eye eggs in there, and it totally dried them out. The fan ran so high. There's no dimmer on it. And it wasn't a lot of capacity, air capacity in there. So, it's just like a saltwater fish tank. The larger mass you're dealing with, the more stable the temperatures and humidity and everything is. So after those eggs, I went on, I don't know, Marketplace or something like that, and I found a company in the area that repairs refrigerators and coolers for like 7-Elevens or restaurants, stuff like that. And I called him. I go, hey, you got any broken ones? He goes, yeah, I got broken ones. What do you want a broken one for? Are you going to fix it? I said, yeah, I'm going to fix it. How much? He told me the price. So I went and picked it up, gutted it. I took everything out of it, scraped all the logos off it, put my own logos on there. And then I put 11-inch heat tape down one side, across the bottom, and up the other. And then I added a computer fan with a dimmer switch. And the way I incubate my monitor eggs is that computer fan is on the top, pointing down, and it barely moves. It goes so slow. It's just enough to, move the air a little bit. Because too much air, like these commercial grade incubators with their high speed fans and stuff, they really dry out for monitor eggs. And then of course my buddy John Adragna, he's the inventor of the Sim egg box.
Yeah, sim containers.
Sim containers, man. That is one of the best reptile inventions ever to hit the market. It takes, incubating monitor eggs used to be a big mystery, and weighing perlite, vermiculite, and comboing it. Your eggs go bad after so long. It just took all the guesswork out of it. I use the Sims. I put them right on the rack, and I put I fill the water line up to the water with straight water. Some people use sponge, some people use water crystal. I use straight water, and I have really good success rate of hatching. And some of these eggs, my longest eggs incubated was Mertens monitors for 262 days.
Wow.
Oh my
Yes.
God. Damn.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Man, we go 55, and I thought we took forever for eggs to hatch.
I'll tell you one thing. Monitor eggs have taught me great patience.
Yeah,
Yes.
I put them in there, and I just forget about them. I'll check on them every now and then, and I just forget about them.
Yeah.
It's the best thing to do.
I never would have thought about the air circulation for monitor eggs, but it makes a lot of sense because they bury them, right?
Yeah,
like
buried.
They make these nests and they completely bury them. So it's not like a snake that's laying wrapped around their clutch, where they're exposed to
like
air and elements.
Or like a colubrid might lay them under a log where there's still some air circulation.
Right. Yeah.
No, these are buried, and they're buried deep too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
That's something that I would have thought about, the difference between like your regular commercial incubator and one that would be specialized for monitors. So that's super interesting.
That makes sense. Liz, we were just talking about what was it? I had an issue with my incubator. It was my fault.
Yeah, your press seal wasn't all the way on. So
I got a clutch in there. And again, my incubator fan is pretty, both of them are pretty hardcore. And I don't worry about it because I let the egg box hold the humidity. Right. And so with ball python eggs at about day 40, oxygen osmosis begins. Well, I'm looking at my eggs and I'm checking the clutches because I have a clutch I'm actually going to cut on Friday. Pretty excited for that. And I'm like looking at it, and I'm like looking at the box next to it. I'm like, yo, those eggs don't look right. And I'm like moving my head around, and I see the press and seal flap is moving. So I opened the incubator, and I didn't push it down all the way. So all that air dried my eggs out. So what I did, took some of Liz's advice and did a few things. I ended up like taking my mister and spraying some into my hand and dripping it down into the dried out crevices of my eggs because they started to crevice and dimple too fast.
Right, exactly.
Plumped up a little bit. They plumped up a little bit, and then I added way more water to my incubation substrate. And then with the press and seal on and a lid over top, just to be safe. But that makes a lot of sense with the oxygen osmosis and the
now a lot of people with monitor eggs, I just trust me, I do trial and error. If somebody has a method, I'll try it. If it doesn't work for me, I scratch it and I just rethink it and do my own thing. And a lot of people still do this, and I'm not cracking on it, but a lot of people take the sim containers and they'll poke a couple holes and then put the press and seal, that breathable cellophane or whatever that is on there. And I've noticed that when I don't do that, when I just put the Sim's lid back on, I never had a problem with moisture, with drying out, with too much moisture. Those things, untouched, they work like a charm. And then, some people do modify them a little bit, but I don't. I just leave them run the way they run, and they're good.
I'm going to get some of those. I'm going to get a few.
Yeah.
You should. They're so awesome.
Yeah, we used to do what they call the substrateless method, right? Which is we would take like PVC, we'd cut PVC and then put the egg crate on top and then put the water in the bottom, so it was kind of a DIY system, but it didn't work well for us. I have a breeder who I got the idea from, a really good friend of mine who's hatched literally thousands of clutches with this method with no issues, and then we used it and I didn't like it. It didn't work as well as my vermiculite that I use. And I think, it all comes down to different incubators, different locations, just like you said, you have your own incubator that you kind of built and put together. So you don't modify your box, which might work perfect for you, but someone else might have more airflow or not as much, or more heat or not as much, or whatever. And so modifying it works better for them,
Yeah, and I tell that to people, like we were talking before about, what formula is our formula. All I could say is, I don't know. I'm not like a science guy or what, a scientist minded guy where I could, I take, it's 2:30 in the afternoon and it's 80 degrees. I don't do none of that. I just do everything like by my instinct and my feel. And I try to tell people all the time. Someone will call me from Texas and say, hey, I got some water monitors and, I was wondering, what do you do to breed them? And I'm like, well, dude, I live in Cheeseland where it's cold most of the time. And you live in Texas where it's hot and dry or hot and humid, wherever you may be. But from region to region, state to state, area to area, your outside conditions affect your house conditions. Your house conditions are going to affect the way you deal with your animals. Somebody living in Florida ain't going to do what I do. And if they did, I tell people all the time, I'm like, hey, would you move to Florida? I'm like, you know what? If I move to Florida, everything I do here most likely wouldn't work.
It changes. Yeah.
Right. And it changes like I try to explain to people, they're like, oh, your room is so hot. And it's like, but you don't understand. I'm in a basement in Wisconsin where the base temperatures of the ground that my animals are living in the basement is a whole different thing than whatever Arizona that's scorching, and so what I do here works with the conditions I have here. And I really personally don't believe that it's transferable, maybe from region to region, but definitely not, the south to the north, to the west, to the east. It's all that kind of stuff is different.
Yeah. Brandon and I talk about this all the time with the ball pythons. Brandon's done a lot of moving around being in the Army. So he's had to change things based off where he's located. Yeah.
Thank you for your service, bro. That's awesome.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the support.
Absolutely. Always support the military, man.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm gonna I got a friend, she's a veterinarian up in Wisconsin. I'm gonna go visit her. When I go visit her, I'm gonna hit you up. Actually, I'm gonna wait till you have something available. And then I'll go visit her. Because I already know the girlfriend already wants something, so
what, a monitor?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's all over with. You get her a monitor, it's all over with.
I know. So put a ring on my finger.
Yeah. Not only that, you're gonna have a bedroom full of monitors.
Oh, she already has.
Or several bedrooms.
Yeah, right.
Depending on the species.
Yeah.
Well,
like I have an 8-bedroom house, but there's only me and one kid. No.
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to get like a 6-bedroom house, but they're all for animals, not for people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
we already talked. So like the first thing I'm getting because I get out of the Army really soon. I'm heading over to North Carolina. The first thing I'm getting is a dwarf caiman. I'm going to head up to Nerd over there. I'm going to get a dwarf caiman. So we're going to do a big, which is why I'm really excited for you to talk about how you make the enclosures top to bottom. My girl really wants to know about that because she does it all herself as well. And so I'm going to do something like that for the caiman. Huge, like the size of a room, concrete pond, mobile filtration system for everything. But anyway, so we'll probably do something like that for the monitor that I get from you, and I plan on getting 2. I want to get the what did you call it? The Corni, the mini Komodo?
The Komodo, the Kingorums.
Kingorums, there you go.
They're great, man.
I would like a Kingorum. I'm sure she wants something bigger than her. So
Yeah. Well, the king gorms, like I said, people that are they want to monitor lizard, but they don't want the specialty, the special needs water for like a Mertens. These dwarf adatrias are great because, I mean, if you do it right, and I don't like to recommend this to people because they think I'm going to go get an Exoterra and I'm going to put a light on the top. You can use Exoterras for some of these dwarf species, but you definitely have to modify the top, the ventilation, and if you're not in a warm room, the glass enclosures lose a lot of heat. So that's a factor too. When people think, they're going to use aquariums and stuff like that. And, small monitors like that, any monitor really, they don't appreciate being approached from above because, birds come down and get them. It's a threat. Anything from above is a threat. So a front opening and at eye level in a room, no problem. They'll just learn to love you.
So my plan is to build the whole thing out of rock or concrete. That's the other thing. She wants to know what you make your rocks out of. We'll get to that in a bit. I know it's on the thing.
It is.
But I want to run. Oh my God, what is Garrick DeMeyer? He's up in Wisconsin. I think ball python breeder. It's a type of ambient heat where the hot pipes run through the floor. And the heat yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I plan on doing something similar to that. That's what I sort of want to do to heat the inside of this area. So I plan to have this area still the size of a room.
I believe they call it. It's like radiant heat in the concrete.
Yes.
It's copper tubing that it just weaves under the concrete, and hot water runs through it, and your floor becomes. Up here in Wisconsin, people use it in their basement bathrooms all the time because the floors get super cold. So that's a great way
to freeze too.
And that really you with heating like that, depending on where your water placement is, you could really create a humid environment with it for like your dwarf caiman or Mertens, stuff like that. So that's real good.
That's the plan, brother.
The only thing I want to touch on right now while we were talking, and people agree with me, people disagree with me, and it is what it is. It's just my personal preference. I've been doing animals and fish, birds, everything, a long, long time. And I know I'm a concrete finisher as well. So I know about all the additives and the chemicals that are in cement and concrete products that eventually leach into water and they can harm flora and fauna. Some people do it and there's never any problems, but I just, knowing, working with the concrete and having concrete burns and I just know what this stuff can do. And there's other people who do use it and they know, they know the risks and everything, and maybe they seal it. I don't know. But when I discovered Polygem Zoopoxy, man, what a product, man. This is another product that I can't brag on enough. I mean, I'm not much of a salesman, but if there's something that I believe in, I can sell it all day long. And like when I was talking with Liz about it, it's so great because it's waterproof. And once it's cured, it's as hard as concrete. You can make it look like a tree. You can make it look like rock, stone. You could make it look like layered rock, boulder type river rock. And it just depends on what you put it over. And then most of mine, I texture with a sea sponge. And then I use these little wooden tools that I made because when I first bought my first batch of Zoopoxy, I went to Hobby Lobby. I love that store. I love it, man. They see me walking in there like, oh crap, we're going to get robbed. I'm like, no, man, I'm here for craft stuff. So I bought like $30 worth of sculpting tools. Well, Polygem Zoopoxy is a really, really, before it's cured, it's very sticky and tacky. And everything you do has to be wet. Like your rubber gloves, you've got to keep them wet. Otherwise it sticks to you, to anything really. It sticks really good. So I bought all these sculpting tools, and I'm working it, and it's sticking, and they're metal, and they don't stay wet. And when I was building the cage, I messed up a cut, and I had a little wood splinter sliver thing. It almost looked like a feather. I'm like, yeah, what the hell? Let me try this. So, like 5 builds in now, I still have that little piece of wood that's soaking in the water, and I usually carve everything, sculpt it with that nice little piece of wood.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
But again, the Zoopoxy, the Polygem Zoopoxy is, once it's cured, it's totally non-toxic to flora and fauna. And it, like I said, you can do whatever you want with it. It lasts. I mean, it's a little costly, but you know what? Unlike cement products, it's never going to leach chemicals. It's never going to crack, chip. It's solid, and it's solid for a long, long time. I mean, it's made for zoo displays, raptor birds, large cats. It holds up to nails, talons, all kinds of stuff. So it's a great product. And I have kits available if anybody's interested.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great product. We're really excited to work with it. I know we're actually forming our pond pretty much just with Zoopoxy. I mean, we have like a pond liner that we're putting in over like we're using cinder blocks kind of for the walls, because it's going to be about a 1,500 gallon pond. So we've got to make sure we can hold the weight in. But we're using the pond liner, and then literally just the Zoopoxy right over it. I mean, that's how strong this stuff is, guys. I mean, you can make water bowls out of it. It holds the water. You don't have to worry about it, warping or the water beating against it and it's going to damage it or anything like that. We've worked with it a little bit, super easy to work with as far as it's very malleable. You could just make it look kind of like however you want, really. You can make nice texture with it. And then you just, paint over it whatever color you want, really. If you want it to look like wood or red rock or moss or whatever, you can just make it look like anything.
And what's really nice is I use acrylic paints, and it's really nice. When I first started to get into this, my friend Steve Saindon, he's a really skilled builder. He makes some beautiful stuff too. If you're ever on Facebook, check him out. And he's actually created the Polygem Zoopoxy Vivarium construction page on Facebook. It's so many great builders there, and new ideas. And so in talking to him, he also does like miniatures, like Star Wars figures, Civil War. And he said, watch YouTube painting videos for the people who paint their miniatures. And he said, look for dry brushing. So I'm watching these videos, and man, believe me, when you're into this stuff, you just get absorbed. And I watch hours of this stuff. And man, like I use, depending on what I'm using, if I'm using a tree, it usually always starts with a diluted black. So you do a diluted black over the Zoopoxy, and that seeps into all the little crevices and cracks, and that like shows the depth. And now from there, I'll put a little diluted color, whatever I'm looking for, brown for a tree trunk, red for rocks, gray, blues for different rocks, whatever. And once you get your nice base coats colors like that, and your blacks that show up the depths of everything that you're doing, now you take, say you're doing a tree near a river, like that river tank that I have, Liz.
Yep.
You take that tree and you put your black over it. You hit it with some brown. Now you come back with some lighter brown. You dip your paint in it. You dip your brush in the paint, and then you pretty much take all the paint off of the brush. And they call it a dry brush. Now you take that dry brush and you just go over and over and over, and slowly but surely you start seeing the lighter colors, and it's so realistic. When I had built that river tank, I got the tree looking fantastic, and I'm like, wow, the tree is right next to the river. I said, there's got to be some moss on the tree. So I took some greens and I dry brushed the greens. So light and fluffy, it looks like real moss growing on the tree. It's just fantastic stuff.
Yeah,
there's just so much you can do with it.
Here's the cage that Mike was talking about. His beautiful setup for his Merton monitors.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's just absolutely gorgeous.
I just repainted that after like 3 years. And when I first did it, I wanted to do really the orange iron color, the rusty iron color. And Karen was like, "Oh my God, it looks, horrible." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's what that's where they come from. That's what it looks like." So I'm really out there, I'm like, I want to be seen, and Karen's more like subdued and, so she convinced me to do the more mild color. Then when I built that barrel, the little barrel with the rocky outcroppings in there, and I did that one orange, I was like, oh my God, I should have done the orange. So I went in there and I repainted that just the other day. That cage looks fantastic right now.
Let me see if I can find a version of that.
That is like the kind of stuff that I'm trying to make for everything.
Hey, you know what, man? I'm more than happy to help anybody who wants to, work with the Polygem Zoopoxy. I want everyone to succeed and love this stuff. And I want them to do a good job painting it. And, the only thing that limits you with Zoopoxy is your own mind, your own creativity. If you can see it, in your mind's eye with Polygem Zoopoxy and acrylic paints, you can do whatever you want to do. And it's not hard.
That's so bad.
That's still the old paint. I have it. I don't, you know what? I put it on Instagram, the new paint job. There you go.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta find the right one eventually, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's that nice orange, man. It's so beautiful. And then, man, the Mertens against that, they pop.
Dude, that's so badass.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Holy shit, you are next level, Mike.
Yeah, and you can
Thank
see
you, man. I
appreciate that. Cool, dude.
I
you can see the
Holy
viewing window down here, which is super nice. This is what he was talking about for the Merton.
Yeah.
And then, Mike, tell us a little bit about this right here, your nest box and how that works.
That's okay. So the viewing window down there, that's a Hagen Laguna pond. That's a 300-gallon pond. And the nest box, the elevated nest box there, I believe it's like 72 gallons, and that's all dirt. And there's a rocky ledge that covers it. So it's a covered nest box with I made it look like a crevice with a crack. So the females crawl in there, they'll nest, and I got the heater to the right there. Not to the other side of that where you can't really see it, but the heater goes from it's not. Yeah, it's no, the other side, the right side. Yeah, the other side of the box. So, and okay, over there you can barely see the red cane heat mat there, and that's vertically against the wall, because then what they do is they can feel the heat. Where if you put it on the bottom, in a natural world, when you dig deeper in the dirt, it gets cooler. So it doesn't make sense to put your heater on the bottom because it's the opposite of like nature. So I put it on the side, and then they could feel the heat on the side, and they could dig as close or far away to it as they want to find their proper humidity and temperature. So
that's good shit.
There's a lot involved. I mean, like I said, I've been doing it a long time, and you just trial and error. You figure this out. And I tell everybody how I do things, and it works for me. So, hopefully it works for others. And, some of the stuff just makes a little more sense,
So if I remember
Um,
correctly, your crevice is kind of right underneath this, right? So this actually goes down into the nest box.
yeah, yes, right
Right?
there by that little bush in the front.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So that's actually a hole that goes all the way through for them to get down into the nest box. And then this big old basking platform right here, that's like super heavy, right? Like that is just a rock.
You know what? You know what's crazy? That's a piece of open cell styrofoam. So the white stuff that gets all like the little balls when you cut it or
Yeah.
break it. That, and it has about maybe an eighth of an inch of Polygem Zoopoxy over it. It's not heavy at all. It looks like a real stone. It's not heavy at all, but it's hard. Like that's a 3-part.
I'm about to buy some of this shit like right now.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, it's great stuff. But that slab that you're seeing, that basking spot there, that slab, it's lightweight, but the Polygem becomes so hard.
Yeah.
Like if I bashed you over the head with that, I could knock you out, maybe kill you. It's light, but it's strong stuff. It's great. It's just great stuff.
Yeah, it almost makes you think like the styrofoam inside it would break, but the Zoopoxy would still like hold its form. You know, it wouldn't crack.
Absolutely.
It almost makes me think of like it almost makes you think of like if you did it with like a balloon, you could pop the balloon and still have like the hollow shell of Zoopoxy, and it would just be it would last forever.
And it would last forever. Yeah.
You can't dig at this stuff. I mean, I took like tools and like dug it, and there's just you can't hardly make. You know, you might scratch the acrylic paint, but the Zoopoxy itself stays completely intact.
Well, whatever you were clawing with, think about like a tiger in a zoo clawing at it, and he ain't getting through it. You ain't getting through it. Exactly. Hey, I have to get my charger. Like 1 second, please.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, let me get the charger.
You're good. I just had like a flathead screwdriver, you know, that I like dug at it with, and you can't make a mark in this. If you can't even like break off bits of texture. Like it's not like something that's gonna it's not something that's gonna like wear down to be smooth over time. And I believe, if I'm correct, we can double check with Mike, the background here too is all made with that styrofoam. Like it's just a sheet with like pieces glued to it.
Yep, that's what it is.
Yeah, so super, and you know, this we can see back here in the video as well. You know, this stuff goes all the way down into the water itself, you know, and then the whole pond is also coated with the Zoopoxy.
You know, I'll tell you the truth. With how that cage started, I use those big tubs because they hold a lot of dirt. So I use them for my peach throats and my coming eye because they require some, you know, really deep substrate for nesting, and it really holds the humidity in the enclosure. There's a lot of reasons to have the deep dirt. But when I had that extra pond, I had both of those extra, the black where the water is, and then where the nest box is that you just showed. And I had it in a separate part of the basement. And like I say, I collect a lot of junk, and Karen gets mad at me. So I put the little one on top of the big one, and I looked at it. I'm like, there it is. That's what I'm going to do. Of course, in my head at the time, I was going to do glass all the way around it. And then, you know, over time, you get a snap into reality, and, you know, glass is expensive. It's not easy to keep clean, especially with monitors like that.
Yeah.
But the 300-gallon pond, okay, I was like, okay, I'm going to use that. And I need to lighten up because those are black. They're black polystyrene or something like that, polypropylene or whatever it is. But so I figured when my Mertens are in there, I'm not going to see them. There's, you know, they're dark and it's black. I mean, so I got the Zoopoxy to line that's how it started. to line the inside of the tub to lighten the color of the tub so I could see the Mertens when they were in there.
Mhm.
So I started, that's what I was going to do. And I got a 2-gallon kit and I did the inside and I had a little bit left. I'm like, oh, that would look nice on the front of the nest box. So where that log is, I put some Polygem there. No, I didn't have enough to finish it. So I get another 2-gallon. Karen's like, why don't you just buy a 10-gallon? I'm like, no, it's too expensive. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was like 6 2-gallon kits later. I should have bought the 10-gallon kit in the beginning, like she said. But yeah, once you start with it, it's just such a great product that it's hard to stop. And as a matter of fact, another thing that I used it for, which is really pretty interesting, when I said I got to have a viewing window in that tub, and Karen was like, if you cut that tub, they'll never take it back. They're pretty expensive. They'll never take it back. And I'm like, I'll make it work, man. I just have that attitude. I said, I'm going to make it work because I always tinker with shit. So I cut the window. I cut the first line. It was scary, but I cut a really nice, perfectly straight line. And then I cut the rest of the lines and popped the window out. And now I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, this got to work because I basically got a bucket with a hole in it, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking, how could I put the window in there? And so what I did was I drilled holes through the side of the tub and the Lexan that I bought, and I put bolts in it. Okay. And I put silicone all the way around it for, nothing sticks to that. Only Polygem sticks to that polypropylene or whatever that tub's made out of. So I knew silicone wasn't going to stick, but it would act like a gasket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I drilled all the holes around and I put the bolts in, started filling it up with water, and I get about halfway up and it was taking a long time. So I went upstairs and I was upstairs for a while. So I asked my daughter, Sarah, hey, go down and check make sure everything's going good. So I hear her go down the stairs and then I hear boom, 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 boom. She comes running back up the stairs. She goes, it's cracked, Dad. I'm like, what? And my kids are always joking with me. So I figured, okay, yeah, right. So I go down there and I look, and there's micro cracks. Of course, I did the research on Lexan after I did this. Thank God Lexan's not too expensive. So when you drill, if you don't have the proper drill bit, you get micro cracks. Okay. Well, with the pressure of 300 gallons of water,
Yeah.
it started spider webbing all the way across. So I drained it real quick. And then now I have to come up with a new idea how to hold the window in place. So I made took all the silicone off, which comes off real easy because nothing sticks to that but the Zoopoxy. So I got a new piece of Lexan, I put it in there, and I made a T-bar. So it went from the back of the tub, and the T I wedged against the silicone and the piece of Lexan, and I'm thinking to myself, well, what am I going to use to hold that in place? So I mixed up some Zoopoxy. I made a pretty big 2-inch bead all the way around the edge of the glass, left it wedged overnight, went down there in the morning. And at this point, I really had not much experience with the Zoopoxy, but that bead was hard as concrete. And I'm like, yes. And then, so I started filling it. And as the water came up, the tub's really flexible. So it bows, the sides bow, the front, back, everything bows. So when it got about halfway, it bowed so much that the T-bar that I put in there to hold the glass in place, it just floated away, and it's been running ever since. So, yeah, Polygem, there's a lot of purposes for it.
Damn.
Yeah, I think that was probably the number one comment that sold me on it. Like the fact that you can use it as a water sealant. Like not only can you put it in water because it's waterproof, but you can literally use it to seal a watertight area. I was like, this stuff is awesome.
It is. It's amazing product.
And kind of going back, just to let people know how strong this product is. This shelf here is also just a piece of that styrofoam, correct?
Yeah, that's it. And
I mean,
that's probably, well, the whole wall there, the side wall is 4 feet long. So that's probably 3 feet, 8 inches from the back to the front. And then probably, I'd say 2.5 feet from the side out to where that log is, that up and down log. Yep. And the only thing holding that in place is the rock work that's behind it. So against the walls, so the back and the side are braced by Zoopoxy. Yep. And there's one screw that goes from that log there into that little shelf, and that's only maybe a 1/2 inch styrofoam with an 1/8 of an inch of Polygem Zoopoxy over it. And it's, like I said, it's stiff as a board.
Yep.
Easy, dude.
Yeah, the monitors lay on it, bask on it. They jump they like fly off of it all over the place.
Yep, and it's solid.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting some Zoopoxy shit.
Yeah. Super awesome, super strong stuff. That was my biggest worry when we were talking about making the Asian water monitor enclosure, was if we use styrofoam shelves, I didn't think it would hold his weight.
Right.
He's going to get to be pretty big. Now, I think I'm going to have to put a couple of supports on it just because he is going to get so big.
Yeah, absolutely. There's ways to back it up. You could run like a little ridge underneath it wherever you want. That would give it like a support.
Yes, exactly. But the fact that I was watching these Merton just like fly all over their enclosure, and this thing, it was just sitting there. It was definitely awesome stuff.
Yeah,
for sure.
So badass.
And then like we were talking earlier in the beginning here, some animals, some monitors, big monitors like the, Jobiensis, a peach throat is considered a medium-sized monitor, but man, they can produce a lot of waste. So there's not a lot of filtration that big monitors like that won't overrun, unless you're talking about big, pool type sand filters. And even then you got to backwash them because there's so much waste that for animals like that, it's better to drain, rinse, and fill. It's just easier and it's cleaner. Now in that Mertens cage, of course, I have the water tub there is basically a fish tank. I have cichlids in there, catfish. I have Denisoni barbs, zebra danios. That whole cage is like a beautiful ecosystem. And thank God I keep my Mertens nice and fed. They rarely eat the fish. Sometimes they'll eat some of the zebras if they can catch them, but for the most part, they don't even waste their time because I feed them good. But so I wanted to filter the water because that's 300 gallons. That's a lot to drain and rinse.
Yeah.
So, and I just assumed that Mertens, crap in their water. For me here, anyways, they don't. They rarely crap in the water, and when they do, it's usually a nice turd that I could just net out. So I also want another thing I want to pitch is for any kind of water filtration. You check out a product that's called Owasi North America, and they make killer state-of-the-art filtration, Pondovacs, heaters in the canister filter, so you don't have wires in your turtle cages or in with your lizards or fish or anything. And what I really like about Owasi products is it's a canister filter, and like other canister filters that are going to remain nameless because I don't want to do that to nobody. When the filter fouls out, you got to break the whole thing down. You got to take that big thing to your sink and all that nasty stuff in there. What Owasa did is they came up with a feature that is kind of like wet dry filtration for saltwater tanks. It's a pre-filter, so it siphons through your water, filters through this pre-filter first. So when your water starts slowing down, like you can see it's getting some buildup in there, all you got to do is you flip a switch, you take out the pre-filter, bring these little foam pads to your sink, you rinse them out, put them back in, drop your pre-filter in there, flip the switch, and man, it's running 100% again. And with that pre-filter, I maybe change. I do the entire filter maybe every 6 or 8 months. So
Wow.
it really, the Oasi really saves a lot of work. So that's another good product to check out.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
that's
Mike,
awesome.
can
You also have
spell Oasi? I can't find that shit.
OASE, I think, right?
Yeah, it's all capitals OASE, and then it's followed by NA because that's their North American line. It's a European company,
Gotcha.
but they have them here now. Which when Karen told me about it, with the filter, with the pre-filter and the heater in the canister filter.
Yeah.
No, you don't have the glass heater in your cage where the monitors may break it or a turtle may bite it. It's just state of the art stuff, and they sponsor me, and I get some stuff from them. I get, I had another issue with that cage with some of the substrate going into the water, and I talked to Karen, and Karen talked to the rep, and they sent me over a Pondovac 3, which is a pond vacuum cleaner for like leaves and stuff. And man, it just everything they got is the Pondovac 3 is a beautiful thing because people say, "Oh, I just use a shop vac." Okay, well, the shop vac only holds so much water, and then you got to slosh that thing over to your sink and dump it and start over. And the filter in there, the HEPA filter, it gets mold after a while. Yep. This is a 2-stage pump. So while it's sucking, it fills up one chamber. And then as it's draining that chamber, you can hear it goes click, click, and it goes to the next chamber. So you never miss. It goes right to your drain. And it's great stuff. And it really makes things easier. And of course, with reptiles, we all know whatever makes your chores easier is a benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. After you, showed us that, when we came up, I mean, it is so cool, guys. It's got like its own hose that drains to wherever you're draining your water, and then you go in, it looks just like a vacuum with like this canister, and then like you said, one chamber fills while the other's pumping out, so you never have to stop and go dump a bucket and come back. And that's especially difficult when we're getting in and out of 300-gallon ponds. So now you're soaking wet, you're like walking over to your drain, getting water everywhere, then getting back in and vacuuming again. So we definitely plan to get one for our Asian water monitor enclosure, especially with just how big our pond's going to be. I mean, we've decided that we're going to kind of make the whole floor space pond and then just put land with Zoopoxy over top of it. Now that we know how strong that stuff is, that we can literally just let water run underneath it and then have like a shelf that's pretty much at water level. He's going from like a 500-gallon pond to literally, I think it roughs out to like almost 1,400 gallons. It's like 1,383. Yeah, it's almost an 8 by 10 foot space. So we're gonna get like some arowanas to put in there and some of your bigger fish and some tilapia and that kind of stuff. But we're excited to get it done, but it changed our build a lot too, right? Like the prep work of getting all this stuff done.
Right. But now think about it when of course, I don't have a lot of people come to my house, but when they do come and they see the fish in there and everything, it's just a beautiful habitat, and it just blows people away. And of course, for yourself too, when you're sitting around, you see your fish in there and you see your lizards interacting with the water. And it's so cool to have something like that rather than a big cage with just a lizard. I love fish and I love my monitors. So I get them both. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it was definitely inspirational to come over. We kind of had this, I don't want to say simple cage build, because our original idea was still fairly complex, right? But after seeing like the acrylic front to your pond and stuff, that's when we decided we're getting an 8-foot, it's going to be an 8-foot acrylic wall. actually. The doors are going to be acrylic. The whole bottom's going to be acrylic. So there'll be like a 6-foot viewing area into the pond, you know, that's going to be glass from floor to ceiling pretty much without, you know, it'll have a little bit of a framing to it, right? But not a whole lot. And yeah, it was just like we went from this awesome project to like look at all the stuff we can do. Obviously motivational from, you know, you guys and the other people that work with Zoopoxy. But really, guys, I can't like preach about this product enough. Like, it makes your visions be able to come to life without having to jump through a bunch of different hoops. Or, I mean, yes, it's expensive, but it'd be way more expensive to get something like built in the same, you know, aspect of degree of what we're looking at.
So this whole time, I was pricing the Zoopoxy for what I want to make for my Cayman.
Yes.
For my Cayman, it would cost me a little above $15,000, which I'm ready to spend that. I don't.
Right.
Hey, look, listen, my ball python breeders just got it like that.
Yeah.
But,
you do. But you know, to be honest with you, even though you would spend that kind of money, am I interrupting you?
No, you're good.
You're the guest.
Okay, what I was trying to say is even though you do spend that kind of money, now I've done, you know, before the Zoopoxy, I was never, you know, wooden walls. I always did something. So I've done shower stalls and bathtub enclosures where I smeared literally cases and cases of brown silicone on the wall and then pressed orchid mulch into it. And believe me, that looks great too. The only problem is when you're dealing with varanids and they're climbing up it and their weight, after a while, you know, it pulls out of the styrofoam, the silicone, and you have a brown silicone wall after a while. Zoopoxy never changes. You may have to paint it, you know, as it fades or, you know, gets a little worn, but man, your rock work and your tree branches and water dishes and things like that, they never change. It's unless you're careless and you break it. But for the most part, it's solid, long-term stuff. So it's well worth the money.
Yeah, I was mentioning that earlier. No, the texture actually stays. Like, it's not like you're baking chips of the texture off and then eventually you've got a smooth wall. I mean, and this is a beautiful picture. And what species was this? Because this is one of your Australian dwarf, right?
Yeah. Those are Kimberly rock monitors or Varanus glauerti, and that cage there is 4 by 5 by we'll call it 2. It's less than 2, but that was 2.5 gallons of Zoopoxy. So that was like maybe close to $200 for that, just that cage. But now you got to understand, $200, that's going to last a lifetime. I mean, you could go buy the other products that are pre-made and you screw it into the walls. It's like truck liner type material. That's very expensive too. And again, if you can run a screw through it, eventually it'll, in my opinion, I don't have any experience with it, but I would think that, if you can screw through it, eventually the weight and whatever you're going to get a little tension and maybe it'll pop through. I don't know. I never used the stuff, but Zoopoxy is pretty well permanent.
So Alvin had a really good question here, and you might need to elaborate a little more. Maybe you guys figure out what he's talking about. But he asked, how does Zoopoxy do with flexing?
I would imagine he means like the
like
malleability.
That's a great question. There's several lines, and Zoopoxy 307 Light is the stuff that I mainly use, and that's hard as concrete. You could take a 1/2-inch piece of styrofoam, put an 1/8 inch of Zoopoxy over it, and literally you could, if you hit somebody over the head with it, you could close to kill them. That's how strong that is. Then they also have a line, it's 307 Light Flex, which is more for like if you wanted to do branches and vines, and it has more of a supple, it like there's no give to 307 light. 307 light flex has a little give, and it's kind of good for animals like some monitors that climb on trees and stuff. The Zoopoxy 307 light is, if you don't texture it the way I texture it, it could be pretty slick and hard for them to get a grip on. But the same 307 light flex, even if it was smooth, they could get their nails not into it, but they can get a grip on it. And that has a little bit of flex to it. So it depends on what you're looking for. If you're trying to build a solid shelf, you would go with the 307 light. If you were trying to build a tree branch for an agamid or whatever to be able to grip and hold on to, then you would use the light flex.
Awesome.
So you have options with it,
Yeah, definitely. Different products for different species or different, types of things that you want to make. Forrest had a good question as well, and I don't know if you know this or not, but would Zoopoxy work on like rat tub chew outs? Like if you put it over the hole?
Yeah, Zoopoxy would work on that. That's man, I never even thought of that. I know exactly what he's talking about because I got a couple of mice and rat tubs here that the rounded corner broke through, and I've put all kinds of stuff on it. But man, he just gave me an idea. I'm going to put Zoopoxy on it and be done with it.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I wouldn't have thought of that either. So that's awesome idea. We'll definitely have to try it. We obviously have rats and get chew outs every once in a while. I never thought to just slap some Zoopoxy, especially if you put it on the outside so they couldn't get to like the corner, which even then, I mean, a rat to chew through concrete would be pretty impressive. And this stuff really does cure as solid as concrete, and it, like you said, it sticks. It doesn't just, it's adhered to whatever it is that you put it on.
Okay, so for example, PVC. I don't know if you guys, PVC glue is a chemical reaction. You take your primer, and that pretty well chemically softens the PVC, and then your glue, when you push your pipe into it and you give it a little twist, it melts together. So that PVC connection with those two glues become one. They fuse together almost like they do with acrylic fish tanks.
Yeah, that's why you can't pull them apart no matter how hard you try.
Now take crazy glue, take silicone, take anything and try to stick it to PVC. It don't. PVC is a weird material, and Zoopoxy sticks to it no problems. I made some branches and logs and tree trunks out of PVC. I heat bended it to give it some shape. Put the Zoopoxy over it, texture it with a silicone tree bark pattern. It's a stamp, and man, let it dry, paint it up, and you could never, if you threw it in the woods, they would never be able to tell that it's a fake. That's how good this stuff is.
Yep. Except that it's light.
Yeah, except it's light.
You'd pick up this giant branch and be like, whoa,
Yeah, wow, that guy's strong.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to make some like green tree python perches out of it. I think that'd be legit.
I think, Brandon, the flex would be good for that because it would give it like almost a vine, it would give it a little bit of
allow the snake's body to
it would kind of allow
to in a way. Like us sleeping on a bed. Like the mattress. Yep.
And like the 307 light flex, if you took a rope, and like I see a lot of people use ropes, and they look cool, like a real hemp rope. It looks cool. I mean, you could get away with, in your mind's eye saying, okay, that's a vine. Well, if you take that same rope and put that 307 flex light over it, and then you sculpt it with your little tools and paint it, man, it looks just like a vine. It's flexible like a vine, and it's going to last a long, long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is another one. This is your Kimberly Rock enclosure as well, right, Mike? This one
Yes.
here.
Oh, I love that.
I just want you guys to see the detail that, like, the vision that you put into these enclosures is insane.
Thank you.
Look at that, like, little outcropping there, like you would never even know, and they can all get underneath there. All kinds of different. I mean, these monitors are living the life, guys. Look at these things.
Yeah.
Look at how much texture there is on this wall. They're climbing all over it.
Dude, that's so badass.
Yeah, and all the texturing I do is, I mean, some people use silicone stamps. Like they got this flexible silicone that it hardens, and like if you see a really cool rock out in the wild or whatever, and you paint that stuff on there, let it dry, and you come back and you peel it off, and you put a Zoopoxy wall up and press that into it, it'll look just like the stamp. But I texture everything with a sea sponge because I really like the texture that it kind of mimics that rocky outcropping in Australia there really well, and it gives them a lot of nooks and crannies to get their claws into to climb. So it's real. You increase your enclosure size tremendously with those climbable walls. It looks like a small enclosure, but there's so much usable space in there because they can climb all over it.
So badass, dude. Like,
thank you, man.
Dude,
it looks so real.
You know what I mean? Are like what I aspire to be. Like,
yeah.
You know what?
For real.
Look at some cool pictures that you like. Get you some Zoopoxy and put your mind to work. It's really not hard.
I'm doing it.
I've seen people take that silicone stamp that we're talking about, right? You can get it off Amazon. I don't want to say it's pricey. I think I found a kit for like $40 or $50, but it's a huge kit, But I've seen people go out there and like paint the whole side of their tree, like a 4-foot by 2-foot piece, of an oak tree or whatever. That's what we have around here, that with big textures. Then they, paint like a PVC pipe, in Zoopoxy, and then they just take this stamp and wrap it around it and press it all down, and then you've got a completely textured. You let it cure, right? And then you just take your acrylic paint and go to town.
You'd never, if you're good at painting and you do the dry brushing techniques, you'd never know it's fake.
It looks like a real, it looks like you found a branch out in the woods and brought it home and stuck it in your enclosure.
And what I'm going to be trying here next is, I use PVC for smaller type branches and logs, and I heat bend them with a heat gun, and you can make, like for snakes or whatever, you can make like hollow log hides. But for bigger tree trunks and branches, I am going to use pool noodles.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's another big one.
Pool noodles, you can use sonotubes that like you could get at Home Depot or Menards, like for concrete forms for pillars, and just put the Zoopoxy over it, and it's going to be solid as can be, and make it look like a tree or whatever you want.
Yep. I'm going to make, so this is actually a different member of that Zoopoxy group that we were talking about on Facebook. But here, I believe this is PVC or is it this the wire mesh? I don't remember underneath this.
I'm not sure.
And then
either,
I believe.
Yeah, I would think wire mesh.
Just to show how. Yeah, but just to see how realistic, right, that this looks. Just looks like someone went and cut a branch, cut the branches off, and they were left with the main piece of branch. So
right now, and if you're that good, I do not have a green thumb. I can't. I kill plants and I feel bad for them, but I try, but I'm no good. But if you took that branch and you put the wide end on the bottom and then you had the three other parts on the top there, if you lean that in your enclosure or stuck it down into the substrate, now the three circular holes at the top, if you put a small potted plant, like a pothos or something, it would grow and it would look like, a tree. It would look beautiful. So there's so much you can do with it, and you're like I said, your mind is the only limit.
We plan on making, like, I want to put planter boxes on my walls and have some ferns and stuff. Obviously, I have an Asian water monitor, so if he's able to get to those, he could do quite a bit of damage. But what I'm gonna do is almost like what they do at the zoos, right, where they build the bottom shallow and then build it like higher as it goes out, and then they'll have land underneath it, but they'll be good probably foot, that kind of goes out and then they'll be on top. So I'm hoping, he won't be able to lean back enough to climb up and kind of get to the potting boxes. So it'll be a hit or miss, but that'll all be, Zoopoxy. We're just going to build like a plywood box. I'll put some stone foam over it so I can just paint it across, and it'll look like a natural wall.
You could put the Zoopoxy directly on the wood too. It'll stick to the wood.
Yes,
so, and then you could eliminate the styrofoam, if you're trying to save space or whatever.
Right.
But also, like when you're thinking about that ledge with the plants in it, I haven't done it yet, but because I'm not a plant guy. So I was thinking, if you take hardware cloth and you build your shelf pot thing, and you put your dirt in it, and then put hardware cloth over the opening, and then Zoopoxy around the edges of it, and stuff. You start pothos in a thing of water, and then in between the mesh, push it down in there, and it'll grow, and the monitor won't be able to dig into the dirt.
There you go. Ooh, that's a really good plan too. Yeah.
By your fence so your dog don't dig under it.
Yep.
Same concept.
That's a super good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was always thinking about that one, but like I said, I'm no good at growing plants, so I go with the fakes. They never change.
Yeah. Right. They're always the same. Natalie said she wants to see you hit someone over the head with the Zoopoxy styrofoam.
Hey, you
Grab
know what?
one of the kids, Mike. We gotta show them.
When I start my YouTube channel, me and my son always talk about, because we're clowns, we like to fuck around, and excuse my language.
Oh, but you're
good. I was gonna do that to him. I was gonna say, "Come here a minute, Dominic." Boop, hit him over the head with it. He'll be like, "Oh, Dad," so to show how tough it is, But Damo, I don't think he's gonna go for that.
Dude, you need to take 2 pool noodles, or 1, cut it in half, and then make 2 swords and sword fight with it.
Yeah. I'll do that, but without the Zoopoxy, because I'm too old, man. I'll get hurt. You're an Army guy. You're used to combat. I'm an old guy. I'm done.
So actually, on my last deployment, I don't use tobacco or anything, but all the guys that dip, we collected up all the dip cans. We never threw them away for almost a year, and we just stacked them up and taped them together, and then made swords out of them and beat the shit out of each other with them.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, I'm against tobacco products too. I'm joking. It's a horrible habit, man. I smoke a lot.
I quit smoking cigarettes February 3rd of 2009.
I like that little that touche there. Cigarettes.
Yeah. I quit smoking cigarettes in 2009. Yeah.
Of course, we're talking about vaping now.
Yeah.
We don't do nothing.
I have never puffed the douche flute before. I've seen people puff on the douche flute. It doesn't look like my cup of tea.
I don't know what the goose flute is, but it don't sound good.
It's a vape, man. That's what you call a vape, a douche flute.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Or you can call it a robot dick. either one.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've heard of it other ways. Yeah, I seen a thing. It said like how you think smoking a vape, how you think you look smoking a vape, and
how
how
you
people
actually
see
look.
you. Yeah, that's an ugly picture, man. But
Yes.
things is on.
All right. So going back a little bit more towards the monitor side of things, do you have any
Yeah.
specific like socialization that you do with your babies, or do you have any recommendations for someone that maybe purchases a monitor and they're trying to kind of get it socialized, and it might have been socialized from the breeder, but now it's getting used to you, right? Like we talked about, they can identify between different people.
Right. Well, number one, I say I don't even if you get some of the the most socialized ones like from Nerd, which they're fantastic animals. They really work with them. You could take that animal and put it in a tank or a tub with an open, a top opening thing, and you'll destroy it because again, they don't like to be approached from coming above. So my best suggestion for socializing is to try to have it, eye level. Or at least, neck level, so you're not coming above it, and in front opening, and always approach slow and quiet, no sudden movements. And in this process, food really helps. I mean, once they associate the big ugly hairy monkey with the food monkey, things change. You get a little better results,
Definitely. Yeah, that's kind of how we went about it with our monitor. He was pretty skittish, to be honest, when we first got him. That's why whoever had him before didn't want him. I mean, he dropped him on our table, was like, he's a douche, I don't want him anymore, and ran off.
So
it's just the way you treat them, you took that same animal, and now look at you got a beautiful animal.
Yes. We were very fortunate that we were able to buy like a PVC enclosure with a front opening door, right? And we kept him up high, like everyone said. He was right about eye level with us. And for the first few weeks, really, people just said, like, just put your hand in the enclosure and act like you're messing around with stuff. Like, act like you're cleaning or act like you're doing something, and let them come up to you. Like, instead of you going in and reaching and grabbing, they're curious. After a few times, they get to where they're kind of coming up and like, all right, what's this chick doing?
And what I've noticed with wild caught monitors is eye contact. Eye contact is huge. If you these wild caught animals, they read other animals by the way they look at them, and so there's so much you can do by just looking at them out of the corner of your eye, but not focused in on them. If you're focused in on them, they're nervous. But if you watch them and look at them this way, off out of your peripheral, it really helps them calm down because they don't feel like, oh wow, I'm being watched. And of course, baby monitors, any little animals, they're food, and until they get to a certain size, they just feel everything wants to eat them. So as much as you can reduce that type of predator, your prey instinct, or you're preying upon them instinct, that all helps. But with my baby monitors, right out of the egg, I start with them right out of the egg. I reach in there, I gently pick them up. I don't do any grasping. I hold them. Of course, I'm ready for them if they jump, but I don't grip them. If you grasp them, they don't like that. So just let them kind of sit in your hand, go from hand to hand, never gripping them. And I do that from the day they hatch. And by the time I sell my monitors, I would say they're well started as far as socialization goes. I don't hold them back to really socialize them. I figure let the other people do it, because they're going to become real nice and socialized with me. I'm only here, I don't have a bunch of people coming and going. So if I could get rid of the fear and give them some confidence, then the next person can go ahead and personalize all that.
Yeah. That's a great point. I do that with my sugar gliders. a lot. Now
man, that's cool.
I breed specifically, part of what I breed for is temperament, right? So my adults are all super friendly. Like my females, from the day their babies are out of pouch, I can go in there, I can get the babies. There's no biting. There's no, every once in a while we'll get what we call crabbing out of them, right? Which is just kind of like the, hey, leave me alone noise that they make. But no aggression by any means. And I socialize my babies, but sugar gliders bond for life. No matter who you are. I mean, I have gliders from their breeder. I literally went to see the breeder 2 years after I got the gliders. I walked in his house and my gliders jumped out of their pouch and jumped onto him. I mean, immediately knew who he was 2 years after having no contact with the dude,
That's
and
really cool.
It's really awesome. When they bond, it is a forever thing. And I stress that a lot, not to get way off topic here, but with people that buy gliders and keep them for 6 months and decide that they're not for them and then they sell them, right? It's like that animal will literally bond to you forever. If you see it 6 years later, that animal's going to know who you are. It's crazy how their mind works that way. So it's hard.
That's really cool.
It's hard for them to jump from home to home. It's almost like a dog, right?
Yeah, that's stressful.
Your dog knows you, even if they see you years later. So with my Joeys, I socialize them. I get that fear out of them so they know people are a good thing. They're comfortable being handled. But I really don't spend all day, every day with my gliders when they have babies that are out of pouch, because I don't want those babies to get so attached that when they leave, they hit a depressional state, right?
Yeah.
Because they've been bonded and now they're
imprinted on you, and then that would be stressful to go into another person's care.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of interesting that the monitors are kind of same in the way, right? You want to get that fear out of them. You want to make sure that they're not, scared of whoever they're going to, but they might be perfect for you. It doesn't mean that the next person they go to, they still need to get to know that person. It's not a mutual
right thing. Absolutely. And like I say, as far as right out of the egg goes, it's very important because they're scared. They come up out of the ground and they know right away I need to go hide because everything's wanting to eat me. So it's the sooner you can give them confidence that you're not a threat to them, that just makes it easier for the next person. And I have seen bonded, socialized monitors. A friend of mine has just took some of mine, and they're 110% different than the other monitors of the same species that he bought from somebody else. And he's trying to, evaluate why is this one so much different than your two? I'm like, well, this guy has a business and he's not spending, time with him. He's running it. He's just changing water bowls, throwing food in there. He's not really showing that he's not a threat. He's doing what he's doing. So, maybe he doesn't feel threatened, but he doesn't feel comfort. He doesn't have that confidence that everything is going to be okay. So it could change. And it all depends on how you react and treat them. I mean, I've seen people, a kid just came over here the other day. One of my daughter's nephews from a marriage came here, and man, I raised 8 kids. This kid was like, I don't know, 7 years old, and he came in and the light switches are going on and off and he's up and down the stairs. What's this? What's that? And I'm like, okay, little dude, when we go down in the room, you got to be quiet and don't touch nothing. And man, when that kid got down there, my monitors were like, what the hell is that? And they, so it depends on, the noises in your house and everything, really.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of touching on a couple things there. You almost call that imprinting when they come right out of the egg, right? We actually do that. I grew up raising horses. We actually do that with foals. We like to catch them no later than 2 hours after the mare has foaled. And we go in and we lay the foal down and we rub all over its legs and all over its ears and all over all those places that horses usually are like, oh, no, don't touch me there, right? And we call it imprinting, and really what it is just teaching them that that's normal. Like if they've known that from the beginning of their life, if a monitor is known to be held from the second, from a couple hours out of the egg, then it's normal for them. It's that's life. It's happened from the time we were born until the day, hopefully, that they, people are still socializing with them until they pass. And it's not something that's like they're 3 or 4 weeks old and then all of a sudden you're wanting to hold them and they're like, holy crap, what is this? This is crazy. So,
Right.
Definitely a good way to get them, just kind of well started from the beginning.
Well, I know my crazy dog lady wife is watching. Man, you got to show that dog. You got to show that dog, dude.
That's my best buddy.
Yeah.
You want to come up here and sit on my lap? And he's a little old. Come on.
That's it. There you go.
Hey, Bubba.
Wow. She?
That's a boy.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah, you just made my wife's day.
Yeah, I found this guy. Found this guy on the side of the road. He's a friend of mine.
Where's Lady?
Let him lay.
I love Jax, but Lady's my girl. She is just so cute.
You met my dogs, right, Liz?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're wonderful.
Yeah. And oh man, she's nice.
Yeah.
And then of course, rescuing them, you scored more points with her. So yeah, we don't ever buy dogs. We rescue them.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't go to I only rescue. But so Jax was found on the side of the road, and he was in pretty bad condition. And we did find the home that he had escaped from. And there was another dog in that backyard who was in bad condition. And me and my buddy waited for that guy to get home. We handled that individual. And after we handled that individual, we took the dogs. The girl, that's that dog. The girl, lady, she, a guy who was working for me, who's now a buddy of mine, his name's Robert Condren. Guys, go check out Condren's Family Exotics on Instagram. Lady was his dog, and she got really, really, really sick. And I volunteer at a vet clinic, and I know a little bit about veterinary medicine and animal medicine in general. And she was so sick, and Condren's vet could not figure out what was wrong with her. And the bills were really piling up, like her medical bills. And so he's like, dude, if you think you could take and save this dog, please do, because if you don't, I'm going to have to put her down.
Wow.
And so I grabbed her up. I took her to my vet, and it cost me thousands.
Yeah, but just look at that dog now, right?
Yeah, but now
and that's the thing about rescuing dogs. Man, they're so grateful,
Yeah, 100%.
Our little dog Charlie, he's just a fantastic dog. He was abandoned in Fulton County, Tennessee, or something like that, Kentucky, and the mom had got hit by a train. They were living on the train tracks, and the two little puppies were actually living off of the mother. And little kids used to like shoot it with BB guns, and he's got a BB stuck in his side, and he is such a loving, happy dog. And man, he's jacked. He's like a perfect physical specimen. And I would like to bring him back to those railroad tracks and stand there with him and let all the people who tortured him and teased them and did all that craziness, and they would be like, holy cow, that's the same dog. I mean, they're just so happy, appreciative, and when you get them in good place, they're great they're great dogs.
Definitely.
Yeah, dude, those are my best friends. Like that dog, I have someone like tagged me in something yesterday where it was like, share 8 facts about your pets, and I put something up there like for one of my dogs, there's been 2 instances where I've actually almost shot people for fucking with my dogs.
Oh
like in a
yeah.
bad way because they're pit bulls. Like my gun out in their face. Like people don't understand. I have made the commitment to this animal. I love this animal. I will die protecting that animal. I don't
Absolutely.
Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
dude. Love that
Yeah.
guy.
And you know, it's crazy because we're in my neighborhood here. You know where I live. I'm pretty much in the woods and not a lot of neighbors. Matter of fact, I really have one neighbor, but somebody's been coming in our neighborhood and snatching dogs, man. You know, a lady down the street has one of those Ring cameras,
Yeah.
and she caught on her Ring camera, not directly, but they've identified the car. When the dogs went missing, they timed it and they identified the car and they were able to get the dogs. But yeah, somebody's out here stealing dogs.
Yeah, we had an issue with that, not us personally, but just kind of in our local area. And they were going around and tying grocery bags to fences.
Yeah,
so like a bag had just blown and got stuck to your fence, and that was the houses to target. So they were specifically looking for like bullies and shepherds and dobies, which I have all 3. So I was out every day checking fences, like to make sure. But yeah, they would go around and tie like a bright yellow grocery bag to a fence. And
well, you see, now that that's known, when you see the bag tied to your fence, now you got to go in the house and put your camos on, hide in the bush.
Exactly.
100%.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm that guy. I am that guy. I won't sleep.
Oh yeah,
I will sit in the dark, guns ready to just rock and roll. Like, come get it. If you can take my dogs, you can take my dogs. But good luck trying to take my dogs.
Right.
And you know, and like, well, Chloe here, she's 100-pound dog de Bordeaux, and you know she's a French Mastiff. And you know what?
Big girl,
if somebody, and she's actually a small one, but if you know people, you know, they want to, I see on Facebook or whatever, you know, they show here's Greg Joe Blow, and they showed a kid with like a puppy on a string. So I always put I have a picture of Chloe protecting one of my granddaughters. I said, hey, Chloe wants to play that game, but you better bring a bigger string.
Yeah.
And you know what? Certain, you know, people that do that to animals and dogs, it's like, you know, what does that make you feel? Powerful, like a Shih Tzu, or, you know, come and do that to my dog, and then you'll be showing me something.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Come try and do that to me. I'm that guy.
Yeah.
You want to feel good about yourself? You want to feel like a big guy? Come try it with me.
Yeah.
Yep.
It'll make you feel so
We can help you out in the emergency room.
Yeah. Oh, if you're lucky. If you make it to the emergency room.
So I don't mean to change the subject, but when are you going to be starting your build there, Liz?
Hopefully by the end of April, early May. I hope to really start hitting it hard.
Because some of the ideas that you were saying with the wall to ceiling glass, man, that's going to look nice. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, we're excited. Yeah, we're getting 1-inch acrylic, which is bullet. Well, and it's not truly acrylic. It's not actual acrylic. It's some kind of special. It's a different version of acrylic, I guess, right?
It's bulletproof.
It is bulletproof. Yeah, it's the bulletproof stuff. And so it's pretty much scratch proof as well. So that was my main fear with using just plain acrylic, was with the Asian water monitor. Once he got bigger, just having the scratches. So yeah, no, it'll be 8-foot bottom, and then it'll be 2 and the 3 feet tall. So the pond's good. Well, the pond's gonna be 3 feet deep, so it's gonna be like 3 foot 4 inches or something, so we have a little bit of waterway there.
Right.
And then the top is gonna be about 4 feet, and we're gonna do 2 4x4 doors and put them on a shower track. So you can just slide one door like you have, right? So you can slide one door or the other.
Yeah, that sounds like an excellent plan. I can't wait to see it.
We're super excited. And then that's a diagonal wall, and then there's a wall here and a wall here, and then the 2 back walls. So in both walls are gonna have big picture windows in them so that we can see in, because it's actually me and Kyle's offices. So his office is going to be on one side, then the cage is kind of dividing it. It'll be almost like a little hallway, and then my office will be on the other side. So once this build is all done, when we're doing these videos, my background is going to be that big picture window.
That'll be awesome.
Into his enclosure. So I'm super excited to get working on it.
What a backdrop. Yeah, what a backdrop that's going to be.
It'll be like
I think the last podcast I did, I don't know if it was the last one or the one before that. I had my laptop working and I was in my basement with that new Kimberly Rock cage behind me.
Yes.
And that's great. I smoke like a stack, so I had to come outside today. So
yeah, no, you're good. But yeah, with this nice weather, you've got to. We've been living in the cold spell for 4 months, so 5 months.
But you know what? I've lived in Florida. I grew up in Illinois my whole life, and then I moved to Florida. I was there 4 years, but man, even the first year was great. Of course, this is great, the pool and the beach and blah blah. But the first Christmas comes around and there's no snow.
It's not Christmas.
Yeah.
It really isn't. I mean, when you come from like this, the winter wonderland, not only Christmas is different, but like there's never a renewal. There's like, I love the fall. There's you don't have that in Florida. You don't have the spring where everything's renewed and it's like it breathes life back into you. It's like always just hot and humid. And I tried it. I made it 4 years and I couldn't do it no more.
I have lots of friends that moved down Arizona way when they, graduated high school, went down there mainly to work with horses. And that's just a great capital area, right? I mean, everyone around there owns at least 5, it seems like,
Right.
And they come home every winter for like 2 weeks. Right around Christmas time, literally just because they're like, we can't stand not having like your white Christmas.
Right.
So,
which is kind of crazy because, we're getting close to the end here, huh?
No, we're good as long as you're good.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm good. I wanted to say that, I tried the Florida thing, didn't like it. And my wife can't stand Florida. It's too hot and humid for her. But you had mentioned Arizona. She really likes Taos, New Mexico. I've never been to the desert Southwest. So I want to go check it out before we move, but that's a prospect. But me personally, I want to go deeper in Wisconsin. I love it here.
Yeah. It's definitely nice. And it's not like Midwest Iowa, Illinois, where it's all flat. Like when you get up to Wisconsin, there's a lot of nice rocky areas and, different timber, and it's nice.
Definitely rural, rural areas with not a lot of people. I'm past that. I grew up in the city. I worked in the city, and I've had enough of the city. I'm done with all the alarms and people. I'm nice and quiet out here in Dairyland.
Yeah, for sure. So we have just a couple more questions for you for tonight. But what do you recommend? Like, what should people consider before deciding to purchase a monitor?
Okay, that's a great question. Number one, I could say to you, keeping monitors, even if it's just one, it's not like frogs, leopard geckos, stuff like that. You don't really have to snakes. You don't have to. You
Yep.
don't have to. It's not daily stuff. You could get away with a long weekend, like I was saying before. With monitors, you really need to be there. They eat a lot if you keep them right. Again, when I say keep them right, you don't with snakes, you give them a big meal and they sit and they digest it for 3-4 days. Monitors, you don't want to feed like that. What monitors you want to do is you want to give them small meals more regularly, daily, every other day. And with that, and the high heat and the high metabolism of these animals, there's a lot of waste involved. Bioactive substrates really help. And like I said, for most of them, they crap in their water. So an easy way to clean out your waters, like think about if you went away for a 4-day weekend and you came home to a monitor that was fed every other day, but the water wasn't changed every other day, man, that's going to be some soup when you get home, and that ain't going to be pleasant. So they're a daily chore.
Yeah.
That's why we plan on we're gonna have fish bioactive in our water, and we also actually have a 10,000 gallon pond filter to run through it, and then so obviously we have a drain, so we're still gonna need to do water changes and stuff like that, but we're hoping to at least be able to keep up with it, for the majority of the waste.
I can suggest for you, like people who want, they want water monitors or peach throats, Molinas, whatever, and they want to have, a water type feature like that in their water crappers. My best suggestion would be, so you don't foul out your filter, you've got to have some kind of a pre-filter that it's going to catch most of the coarse turds and substrate that goes in the water, because that fouls your filter really, really fast. So to have a pre-filter really helps. It's not impossible for water monitors and stuff, but it takes a little work to keep your filters going,
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And we also plan on having like live mangrove trees.
Nice.
In it as well. So the bioactive, filtration through there. We've even talked to people about like freshwater clams, because they're naturally filter. The tilapia as well, as although they add to the bio load, they eat crap. I mean, that's pretty much what they do. They go along the bottom and they eat everything.
Right. We eat them. People buy it at the store.
That's like the one fish that I don't eat, because I know that's how they work.
Yeah, but, when you see those tilapia farms, you want to stay away from that for sure.
Well, they raise them with bass most of the time, because they eat all the stuff that the bass shit out, pretty much, and that's how they raise them.
I seen a documentary one time on a duck farm, and it was actually pretty cool. These I think they were Chinese or Japanese people. They have these like fancy ducks. I'm sure they use them for meat, but these are like show ducks and stuff that they're breeding, and their little islands out in these ponds are like a grate. So when the ducks shit, it goes through the grate, and now they got tilapia in the water, and they sell the tilapia for food. Yep. So they're getting like, filtered water and money from the tilapia, money from the ducks. It's a beautiful little system,
Yeah. And we talked about, the guy that's providing our fish was like, if you put enough tilapia in there and give them some hiding spots, they'll breed. And then he's like, either your arowanas will have food or your monitor will have food. He also recommended maybe doing a species or two of frog for the same reason, they could eat them. And then he also recommended doing some like mantids if we were going to do plants in the cage, just to do some more bioactive stuff.
Insects. Well, I just started a new venture. I'm breeding some grasshoppers, which I tried years and years ago, and I just couldn't figure out the formula for them. I breed all kinds of roaches and stick insects, and and I always wanted to breed the grasshoppers. I couldn't really figure it out. A friend of mine, Kai Fan, you can find him on Instagram. I think he's like at Big Lizard, or Kai Fan on Facebook. Man, this guy is breeding grasshoppers like you would not believe. And what a great food source, fairly easy to maintain, and you get tons and tons and tons of food. So you might want to look into that. Yeah, look up Kai Fan. Like I said, he's selling them now. So, check them out.
Yeah. And so talking about, you feed your monitors, how you feed them, which is interesting because I've actually always heard that most people feed their monitors like really heavy and then give them a few days and then feed them really heavy again. So I might have to change up my feeding regimen a little bit for my guy. But what do you feed? Do you feed do you have like a main food source that you do like any interesting prey items, like maybe, something other than rodents, or kind of do you give a diverse diet, or how do you go about that?
What I do, because rodents they're really high in calorie and they're really high in fat, which, you are what you eat. And when you put that high fat content, low calcium type stuff in there, it directly affects your animal, and you'll notice you'll start seeing obesity and fat stores, and a lot of times you get fatty liver disease and stuff like that. So I feed, my staple is quail eggs, fish. I use fish. I use a lot of bugs, a lot of roaches, and crickets for the smaller species. Some chopped pinkies and mice every now and then, but very limited on the rodents with my monitors. Don't get me wrong, my big male coming eye is just he relishes a nice big fat rat, but in the same breath, if you take 20-30 gram quail and you give it to him, it's a good substantial meal, but it's like the proper bone calorie and calcium
nutrients. They're getting the correct amount of
perfect macronutrients.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? To be honest with you, day-old quails out of the egg, man, there's so much of that yolk left in their belly that's a high calorie, but like a low fat for them. So I feed the crap out of them with those day-old quails, because a day-old quail is really small. A Mertens monitor could eat 15 of them, every day. Yeah, and it really doesn't make them fat. So, I try to suggest to people to stay away from rodents as much as possible. Yes. Of course, they're if you put them in there, it's good. And of course, stay away from processed foods. Anything ran through a grinder, anything from the store. I avoid all that stuff unless you're going to the Chinese store. Then they got bullets, they got the quails, they got snail meat, they got all kinds of weird stuff, and your monitors just love that stuff.
Right. So we feed a lot of silver-sided minnows. We get them frozen from feeder stores. So I believe you're not supposed to feed monitors like carp, right? So like feeder goldfish and stuff like that. There's
they have that thiamine or whatever it is. It's a
thiamine in the carp. Yeah. So that's a big thing to stay away from when you're
goldfish. You don't want to use that kind of stuff. I see a lot of people feed. Now, I kind of learned my lesson, and I don't know if, I didn't have no necropsy done or nothing, but I was feeding crayfish. And my wife's in the fish business. She's a wholesaler. And, I can get shrimps and crabs and crayfish, by the bucket loads. But man, when you realize how they breed those things in those dirty ponds that are way overpopulated, I had lost a female coming eye, and I believe it was from a parasite from
Right.
from crayfish. So what I did was I said, okay, well, I got a lot of crayfish. I'm not just going to throw it away. So I froze them. Well, when I thawed them out, man, you freeze a crayfish and then thaw it out. There's not much left of that thing. I don't know if the meat shrivels up after it's frozen, but it's a lot of shell. So I don't do it anymore. I'll use human grade shrimp, stuff like that.
Yeah. So we do the silver-sided minnows, and then we don't have access to quail, though we're hoping to get access to some here soon. But we do just eggs, like normal chicken eggs, right? He'll eat them pretty much any way I serve them, except over easy.
Really?
Don't know what it is, but he'll eat them scrambled, he'll eat them hard-boiled, he'll eat them raw. But if you put over easy, he won't touch it. So that was an interesting find one day. And then we feed. What is your take on feeding like raw meats? Like, do you cook yours a little bit? Do you feed it raw? Do you not feed it meat at all?
I never feed any kind of meat. I know people do, and I guess if there was ever a shortage of my staple foods that I use, of course you can use it, but when you think about meat, you're talking about muscle meat, so you're not getting intestine, you're not getting, the innards and bone. So, as a treat, something like that. Yeah. But the problem with that kind of stuff is, it becomes so convenient and so easy. People are like, oh, I got to go to the pet store and bring the stinky mouse home and, all these frozen quails in my thing. And I could just use a chicken breast. Well, you're giving them straight meat. You're giving them muscle meat. You're not giving them tendon and connective tissues and, soft tissues and innards, that's all stuff that they eat,
Yeah, definitely. For sure. What is your take? I got one more question on food, just because I know there's a lot of I don't know if you want to call it controversy, right, on monitor feeding, but there's a lot of different information out there. One that I have seen that I thought was kind of interesting, and I know we feed it to a lot of bigger snakes, is rabbit, because it's so lean.
Yeah, if I had lace monitors or parentes or, croc monitors, there ain't nothing wrong with a rabbit, I don't believe. Just, what I have here, I guess if I had like bunnies or something, but I have never priced them out. I don't know if it's cost effective. I don't really know.
Rabbit is pretty expensive. I'm not going to lie, but we have rabbits that we breed for feeders because we have a couple larger snakes that we feed rabbits to. At the moment, they're only eating kits, but eventually they'll be big enough where they're going to need, full-size meat rabbits pretty much. But yeah, every once in a while, if I have like a kit left over or a snake doesn't eat or something, I've thrown him a rabbit kit. He seems to really enjoy it, but I prefer the whole prey items as well, giving him something that.
And again, like, if you did have a large rabbit and, it was dead, frozen, thawed, whatever, and he can't get it down, monitors enjoy tearing meat up. They enjoy getting into innards. So, it's a little messy and, you got to kind of watch it. But, they love getting in there and tearing stuff up. And as long as, they're doing that and not, picking like only, the innards or muscle meat, as long as they're getting a little bit of everything, a little bit moderation is good. So, but it's good for them to tear into stuff too.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned earlier about the crayfish. You think that it might have been a parasite, that you lost your Kamenite girl to. We actually deworm our monitor every 6 months. We are really good friends. Me and Kyle both used to work for the local exotic vet. So we're still really good friends with her. We took him in on his initial kind of yearly examination, and we just go and get dewormer, and, we deworm him every 6 months, specifically because we feed whole prey items, right? You know, whether it be frozen thawed or live. I've even got like feeder and knolls and stuff for him before. You know, he loves it. This is horrible to say, but like he loves other reptiles over anything else that I have found. You know.
Now you see, if you're feeding other reptiles and crayfish and like amphibians and like you said, anoles, that's they have parasite loads, so that's to deworm every 6 months or whatever it is that you said for your pet, an individual animal. That's fine. That's I would rather, in my case, as a breeder, I would avoid introducing that and then hitting them with Panicure and Flagyl or whatever the case may be. That's a little harsh on them. And then when you're talking about breeding animals, the stress of breeding on a female is it's a lot on the animal. So then if you add something like that to it, I don't know. I've never done it. But I would think that's with the combination of the stress in their body from breeding and then fighting parasites and having medicine, probably not a good thing for breeding females. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. A good, kind of difference there between like a pet animal, right, or when you're breeding. So yeah, that was just something that our vet had recommended. So I was interested if you knew of anyone or you yourself did anything of along those lines.
On any wild caught animals, like I generally work with only captive born these days, but with my peach throats, these are wild caught animals, and they need to be dewormed and hit them with Flagyl and Panicure and. Yep. You need to do that for them. You need to reduce that parasite load. But once you get it under control and you're not introducing other prey to them that may be parasitized, then I would just avoid it.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense.
If you, like you say, you're friends with your vet, maybe rather than hitting them with the Flagyl and a Panicure every 6 months, maybe bring them a stool sample every 6 months. And if there is a parasite load, then do it. And if there's not, then you don't.
Right, for sure. And I can't remember right off the top of my head, this is horrible, exactly what kind of dewormer we use. But with being in the vet industry, I'm sure Brandon can speak on this topic as well. There is a difference between a preventative dose and a cleaning dose.
Hell yeah.
Right? So it's almost like when we give our dogs a flea, a flea topical or a flea injection, right? That's a preventative dose, right? That's just enough that if a parasite were to get into the body, it would die. And then you have your cleaning dose, which is this animal has parasites. We are going to wipe everything from its body and start over again.
Right.
So, just to let you know, because I know some people will probably watch this and they'll look it up. You can buy dewormer that is safe for reptiles right off the internet. Make sure you are not dosing for a cleansing dose if you are trying to use it as a preventative, and also make sure you take that animal to the vet, because there are some animals, depending on the level of degree of how infected they are with the parasite, if you right off the get-go give them a cleansing dose, they're gone. If the animal's already dehydrated, it's already malnourished because of the parasite, and you decide to put the stress on its body to completely clean out its system, sometimes you have to give them a small dose to kind of start, let them regain some strength, small dose them again, and nurture them through that.
Basically, if you don't have the knowledge of how to deworm and how to deparasitize animals, it's most of the information out there on the internet and stuff is more like the wipe everything out, not a preventative thing. Yeah. So if you listen to that, there is internal flora or whatever bacteria loads that are necessary. So you don't necessarily want to wipe everything out, just the bad stuff. And if they're animals. They know, they come from, I mean, you think about a pooch goat, come from the jungles of New Guinea, man. There's all kinds of shit inside that animal.
Yeah.
And before you bring it into captivity and stress it out, he handles it no problem. It's just the stress of captivity that changes that load to become overload.
Yep. Yeah. And it's no different. It's your immune system. If you're stressed as a person, your immune system goes down, right? That's why people who are super stressed usually have like a sniffly nose or congested, or they've got some kind of mild cold that goes on all the time, right? Well, if you take an animal, you take an animal out of the wild and stress it and bring it into a captive situation, their immune response, their immune system's going to drop just like a human's would, right? So like you're saying, that good and bad balance, right? The immune system isn't going to be able to combat that. So they might, get a mild sickness that's being caused, but once their immune system levels out, maybe through medication, maybe not. It might just take a few weeks for them to kind of level back out. But yeah, definitely, guys, consult your vets before doing any form of deworming. The cleansing deworming can be 6 to 10 times the normal dose that you should give for preventative care. So it's not like we're talking like, oh, I just double the dose. Like there's a huge range of dosing depending on what you're working on.
And also, I'd like to say with, Brandon, as a vet tech, my daughter's a vet tech too, you can, by administering these preventative doses, you can slowly but surely make these parasites that are no good, you can make them a little more immune to it, where they're a little stronger and a little stronger, and you're actually doing more damage than good unless you're wiping them out.
Exactly. Yeah. So we see it with fleas every year, especially with dogs, right? Like you might have been using, say you use Frontline, right? That's or Heart Guard or whatever it is that you use for fleas. Proactive and they work for like 3 or 4 years really well, right? And then the next year, like your dogs have fleas. You're like, what the heck? I've been using the same medication every year for 4 years. Well, exactly. So now all the fleas in your area have built up in your backyard, right, where your dog goes, have built up an immunity to the active ingredient that you're using in your flea medication. So what you need to do is you need to look and see what the active ingredient is, and then go buy a different brand that has a different active ingredient, right? And then that's how you kind of combat that. And guess what? It'll work, and then 4 to 5 years later, it won't work anymore. You'll go back to the other one. So
ain't nature wonderful?
Yeah. All right.
Immunities.
We are at almost 2 hours and 40 minutes. That was the last question that we had for you tonight. So unless you have anything else that you would like to add before we let you go, we do go through like what we call a little revolution round, which is just questions that you answer kind of right off the top of your head. Like just as soon as, whatever it is, you pop the answer in. Yep.
Okay, well, I'm sure, I don't know how many people are watching, but what I want to say is something that's very important for our industry, our hobby, our love, our passion is if you like reptiles, if you don't keep them, but you like them, you like looking at them, join USARK. You got to join USARK. We need the support. Everybody who has, I don't care if you have one leopard gecko, you got to join USARK because they're coming after us hard and they're heavy. This cancel culture it's for real, man. And we're in their sights for whatever reasons. We're in their sights and we need to support. I believe we just won a big battle here in Illinois with the support of the people. I mean, we need to pull together. The infighting on the internet and all that stuff, bashing newcomers. You're only driving people away. We need to come together. So join the USARK and help fight these crazy laws that they're trying to pass. my key thing. I had to add that in there.
Yeah, for guys who don't know, or for people who don't know about the law that was going to pass in Illinois, it was all transportation for non-native species. Guys, this does not just apply to reptile keepers. A horse is not native to Illinois. Yeah. You know, they could shut down horse shows, rodeos, cattle shows, transportation for food, right? Like hogs, cattle. I mean, literally it was any transportation for human need or entertainment of an animal, to showcase an animal in any way. So it was pulled from the table. There was such a high drive of people against this bill and sending educated emails and just sending. It's as simple as copying and pasting, guys. They have emails that you can literally send to you know, for the opposed against the bill.
Sign your name. Send your name on the blanket statement or whatever they call it.
Super easy. They didn't even get a chance to vote on it. I mean, they literally pulled it from the table. It can either, you know, they can choose to table it again or it'll die. But there was no voting. There was nothing. There was such an overwhelming response. As a resident of Illinois, I very greatly appreciate this. They've been trying to get this bill through for about 3 years. This is not the first time we have had to run up to bat for this exact same bill.
That's mind-blowing, dude.
As far as USARK goes, all the information is in the description down below. The link to their Instagram, link to their website, so you can sign up for membership. That's in the bottom of all of our videos, because yes, they need the support greatly, and we really appreciate it when people can come together. I get friends and family that maybe don't even like reptiles, right? But they know that they're important to me. So they'll go and send an email.
Absolutely. Yep. That goes a long way.
Definitely. So we appreciate, and it just takes 5 minutes of your time, guys, to be able to keep having and the animals that we want to keep and doing the things that we love with the animals. So
yeah.
All right. And with all that mushy stuff, right? Keep our eyes. We'll run into the fun questions. All right. You don't have these, Brandon. Come on now. Do I have to ask all of them tonight, or how are we doing this?
What's your 1 rep max on bench, Mike?
My what?
Your 1 rep max for bench press.
Oh, geez, I'm old now, man. I used to be jacked. So I was when I lived in Florida, I was a younger man, and I did. I don't know if you recognize his name, Joe Weider. Okay,
No.
back in the 80s and actually in the 70s, he was a big bodybuilder. Well, he came up with the protein, the repair, the boost, all that stuff. I was taking that for a while, and I never really kept track of my max and stuff, but I was pretty jacked. I mean, it is what it is. I'm old now, and I'm kind of shrinking. But yeah, I don't know. I was a strong guy. I did concrete for 30 years, man. I mean, just my work alone was, I called it the health club. I'd go to the health club. I'd get all nice and tight, and I'd be out in the sun and get the suntan.
Yeah.
So I got paid to work out and get a suntan. It was beautiful.
There you go.
That's good shit.
That's awesome.
That's good shit.
All right. So saying the word, how do you say this? Do you say caramel or caramel?
Caramel.
Yes.
Caramel.
Caramel. Thank you.
It's definitely caramel.
That's funny. Me and Karen go through this all the time, but I say caramel.
Yes, caramel.
Not caramel.
Yeah. Yes. For sure.
Well, I don't know any other ones.
You don't know you came up with most of them. Come on now.
Fuck.
All right, I'll do it.
No.
All right, Mike. Are legless lizards actually lizards, or are they snakes?
Well, they're lizards.
Exactly. Thank you.
They are lizards. Yeah.
Yes. All right. What's your like dream monitor species? Like if you could own any species, what would it be?
Well, I mean that's a tough question to ask. I mean, if I could only have one animal or one monitor and cost was nothing,
Right.
I would have a group of Mertens, but I would have them in an atrium type room with the running pond and where I could actually sit out there with a little bistro table and
Yep.
eat my lunch with them, and that's what I would have.
That just sounds awesome. Yeah, like your own little slice of paradise, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Brandon, you know the last one. It's a question we ask everyone.
Yeah. All right, Mike. So as far as the industry and the reptiles and you in person and everything, how are you revolutionary?
How am I revolutionary? Okay, I would say since I was a kid, I never had a lot of money, so I always thought out of the box. So while people were buying the newest, and this is going way back, Neo Dasha cages, I didn't have money for that. So if I found console TV on the side of the road, I'd pick it up on my bicycle, I'd ride it home, I'd kick the TV tube out of it, I'd put a piece of plexiglass in the front, and cut an opening in the top of it and deck it out with plants and rocks. And I've always been into making naturalistic habitats and out of unconventional things like shower stalls and bathtub units are great for tree monitors because it's a shower stall and a bathtub stall. They like high humidity. So you could build a shower stall or a bathtub enclosure and deck it out real nice, and you never have to worry about warping, rotting. They last. It's what it's made for, but I turn it into a lizard cage.
That's badass.
As a matter of fact, if you go on my website or my Instagram page, I just posted some of my builds from way back in the day, the shower stalls, the bathtub units, the landscaping timbers I used, just a bunch of stuff, just thinking out of the box and, inexpensive ways of creating something that's really awesome.
That's good shit.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm trying to find a picture because it's almost hard to explain, but I think one of my favorite builds that you've done is the whiskey barrel.
Oh, yeah, whiskey barrel. Yeah. Now, that idea has been in my head since I was a little kid. Now, of course, it was not a whiskey barrel. It was those blue barrels, the plastic ones. But so when I wanted to display my captive-born monitors, I came up with these whiskey barrels with the Zoopoxy inside. And, man, they're just awesome. Yeah, it really catches people's eyes,
Here's a couple pictures.
Yeah, that's my table display.
Yeah, this is at St. Louis NARBC, I believe.
Yeah, definitely.
I was going to ask if you were going to Arlington.
Yeah, well, I'm going to, I'll be at the NARBC in Schaumburg, in Missouri again, and then hopefully I'll be able to get a table in Tinley.
Yeah, if we ever have actual Tinley again.
Yeah.
But
I'm good with Schaumburg. Schaumburg's like 40 minutes. It's actually about an hour closer to my house than Tinley.
Yeah, because it's north for sure. But this is the first thing that I saw made with Zoopoxy, and I just thought these were the coolest enclosures like that I had ever seen. And it was something so, I guess, simple and in the long run, right? Like, I mean, it was just a barrel that you cut in half and put acrylic on the front of it and then coated the inside with Zoopoxy, but they were beautiful. They were amazing. It was so different, and everything about the way that you do your enclosures that I absolutely love is they're all like showpieces.
Yeah,
they're not a PVC room with like a black net in the top, right? And like a black exposed tote in the bottom, which there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. Like they are perfect for the animal, but it's so much
not
more.
For me.
Yeah, it's so much more fun, in my opinion. And I guess maybe it's because I'm looking at this from a pet standpoint instead of a breeding standpoint. Although, if I ever do breed, I'll have the same type of cages.
I do. I breed them into nice cages too.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I couldn't believe that. When I saw your Mertens cage online, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, he's got one big showpiece cage, right? And then, like, a lot of us do, right? And then the rest are going to be in, like, your PVC rooms or the,
right.
whatever you decide. But no, I mean, every cage that you have, every enclosure is like, it's like being at a zoo. I mean, it's like, oh, look at this one. Oh, look at that one.
I tell people all the time, for me, as much as I love my animals, I love creating the habitats and I love looking at them and I love showing people because it grabs them. It draws people in and they think, oh, I seen my friend's got a snake in a 10-gallon tank. And I'm like, well, there ain't no 10-gallon tank snakes here,
Yeah.
And even if I did do a 10-gallon tank, I still would deck it out. I've always been that way. I love that as much as keeping the animals as creating these cool habitats.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So badass, dude.
Yeah, super, super cool. I'm sure we could talk all night about awesome cage builds. Because it's different.
It's unique.
It's not something that everyone does. And
you know what? I'm trying my hardest to make it, I'm sure it'll never be mainstream, but to make it more popular for people, I mean, it's just, you enjoy it more. I mean, I look at these people with these, dart frog tanks with live plants. Man, that's just like so much better than, a water dish and a hide box. It holds the interest. It draws people in. And you know what? When it comes to USARK and stuff like that, and they say, oh, you're weird. You keep I'm like, yeah, I keep reptiles, but I don't keep them like you think. Look at this. And even the hardest people who are against reptiles, when they look at my enclosures, they're like, wow, I didn't know it was like this. Well,
like I said, it's like walking into a zoo. It's like it's just amazing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and we see some collections that are like that, right? Like the Reptarium, I think, is a great example, right? Like everything is decked out to be like you feel like you feel like you're in that environment, right?
Now, let me ask you a question. When we're talking about the Reptarium and my naturalistic enclosures, and you think about the animal, do you think the animal appreciates that? Of course they do. Of course they do. Yeah. Do you think you appreciate that?
Yes.
Yes. And it like I said, it's a whole different thing that it draws people in. It holds everybody's attention. The animals, they know a fake wall. They know a fake plant. And they know that they know the heat lamp ain't the sun. They know that. But they sure appreciate it more than just the lowest common denominator to keep them alive. They appreciate, and then, like I said, you don't want to cheat your animals and you don't want to cheat yourself, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Here's another one, guys, just before we hop off here. This isn't even a zoopoxied enclosure, right?
No.
It's plywood, but you have it painted green, so it's really nice and aesthetic. You have all these fake plants, these branches, this cork bark, the lights. Like, it's very, it's nice to look at, right? Aesthetically pleasing. It's not a room with one platform and this, like a ramp going up to a platform and then a big tote of water underneath. And that, that's what they got. It's just, they're amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Here's another one.
That's a nice one there.
Yeah. Yeah, look at that, guys. It's just so absolutely stunning.
So cool, man.
Yeah.
I love your shit. I really do, man.
Thanks. All that stuff there comes from the woods right here around my house.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool. And it kind of like we've been mentioning, this whole video is obviously the intelligence different with monitors too. I mean, I'm sure they appreciate the enrichment of being in, You talk about not wanting your monitors to get fat and lazy. I've seen your monitors and I've seen other people's monitors where they just kind of lay around. They don't really move a whole lot because there's really not much to do, right? Like they've got their platform, they got their water, and they have a ramp that kind of goes down and stuff. Obviously your monitors are going to bask and do kind of stuff like that. But when we were there, we spent a few hours, they would go up and bask. Then as soon as they warmed up, they were right back to exploring and doing all, digging and doing all kinds of like these truly natural behaviors. And then, they'd go back up and heat up again maybe for a little while or cool down or whatever. And then they'd go right back to their thing. I was amazed, and my monitor does this as well. We have them in a very similar setup, to see just how kind of similar, I guess, that they acted compared to other monitors that I've seen in these very simple setups that are fat and lazy. And as soon as you open the door, like other monitors are usually trying to run out of the enclosure. It's almost like when you lock a dog in a bedroom, right? And then when you open the door, the dog's like so freaked out because it wants out so bad.
Right.
These guys, you open the door and they kind of look at you and then they come up a little bit and they kind of hang out. But I mean, they really just enjoy the environment that they're living in.
Other than like small babies that are nervous and scared, my bigger animals, they have no problem going back into their enclosures. When they're out, they don't run and hide. They'll explore, and when it's time to go back in, they gladly go back in.
Yeah. My guy, and whether, just kind of a habit, I let him out in our snake room when I'm down here. Guys, monitors will, and do figure out how to open your snake tubs.
Yeah.
They are very smart. I've seen him open them from the front, and I've also seen him walk behind them on the rack, like specifically to push them out. So they can.
You better hope you don't need none of them expensive ball pythons.
Yeah, don't leave them unsupervised because they will do it. But yeah, I mean, I have a routine now where like I get done cleaning, I take out my trash and stuff, and he's kind of hanging out. I'll just be like, all right, bud, time to go back. And he just lumbers back over and gets in his pond and sits in there and is like, it's not like this big fight, to like try to get him back into a place that he doesn't want to go into.
It's their happy zone. So
yeah, for sure. Well, anyway, we were at 3 hours, guys. Wow. We made it.
That's the longest one I've ever did.
Time flew by really quickly. Yeah. I do have a picture. I have like the ReptiChip loose products, so they come in the big 24-quart bags, One day I wasn't paying probably as close attention as I should have, and he had burrowed himself in one of those bags of baby chip. So in the process of pulling him out, like there was baby chip flying everywhere, and it just made a big mess. So yeah, they're like toddlers. They get into everything.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome.
I think the only thing worse is maybe ferrets.
Yes, I've had ferrets. So at least they don't chew, I guess, right? Like ferrets collect stuff. Like they'll steal things and take it,
Tiny, give me.
Or like the ferret, the thing that I always thought was weird about a ferret is like when you go to the doctor and you get an injection, they hit you with that cotton swab. Yep. Like the ferrets always lick you, like it's real nice, and then they bite you.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, he's so cute. Look at him licking me. Oh, yeah, little son of a gun, yeah.
Definitely. All right. Well, Mike, thank you so much for your time and all the wonderful information that you shared with us tonight. This is definitely a fun one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Liz. It was a pleasure meeting you, Brandon, and thank you for your service again. One more time, Polygem Zoopoxy. If you need kits, hit me up. Yep. Oasi, water products for any of your filtration needs or pond needs, anything like that. USARK. And you can also find me on Instagram, Mike's Monitors, Mike'sMonitors.com, Mike's Monitors on Facebook, and Mike Stefani on Facebook.
Yeah, guys, and if you need any of that, all the links are in the description down below. I also put the links in there for the Polygem Instagram, Facebook, and website. But like Mike said, get a hold of him for the kits. He's more than welcome. You know, he's more than happy to hook you up with that stuff. But until then, again, thank you so much, Mike, and maybe we'll have you on again some other time. This is a lot of fun.
That sounds great.
Yeah, we gotta
Take care,
have
guys.
Sure.
All right, bye.
Later,
Good night.
bro.
Bye, bro.
All right, that was a good one. 3 hours did not feel like 3 hours. I literally looked up at the clock. It was like, holy crap, we've already hit like 2.5 hours.
That shit was awesome. I learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Just off base, like how he does everything and how he talks, you could tell he does it for the true love.
Yes.
Of the animal. Like, he's like a kid, dude.
Yes.
He's like, I love making their enclosures, and I love setting up that. You know, he likes to interact with them, and if I get a monitor, it's gonna be from that.
And you can tell just by his place too. I mean, there, you know, it's just like I said, it's just gorgeous to walk into. It's not what you would expect when you think of like a monitor breeder, right? You know, it's just, you know, it's very cool. His place is awesome. His cage builds are amazing. And guys, he is so open to answer questions. I mean, if you have a questions on how to build a pond, what filtration to use, what colors to use for this, how do I make this look like rock or a tree or whatever the case may be, he is full of great ideas and more than willing to answer any of your questions. Super, super awesome guy. So please give him a follow. Feel free to reach out to him with, you know, if you're planning on doing a cage build of any kind. Super awesome dude for sure. Like he said, the Zoopoxy, Polygem Zoopoxy, it is on the expensive side, but you never have to redo it. It lasts forever.
It's like buying a metal rack.
Yes, and it's not going to leach dangerous chemicals into the water or fauna or anything like that is eventually, you know, could end up harming your animal. But yeah, just a lot of amazing products, so much knowledge. Like I said, we probably could have gone for another 3 hours and still not have, you know, even scratched the surface of what that man knows of monitors.
I could have went in there with like so much more medical questions and like as far as like, because he's very what do you call it, like locality specifics. There's a lot of people like that in chondros. They like to just really nice Biocs or really nice Arus, but there's lots of people who have like crosses and blue face stuff, and I'm just like, you know, I could talk to that dude for quite a while about all that, especially dwarf shit.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, thank you everyone who joined in. We kind of dwindled out this past hour, but I know it's super late for a lot of people. Yeah, Brandon's gonna have a rough morning.
Yeah, dude. But, thank you for 100 subscribers on YouTube, guys.
Yes,
we appreciate that.
Thank you. We appreciate it so much. But yeah, next week we have a special guest on. Should be Miguel from Always Evolving Pythons. We just put out an awesome new video about can you make $1 million breeding ball pythons. So we're definitely going to be talking a lot about the business side of things with Miguel, along with, of course, all of his amazing projects that he has over there. But with that, guys, it is 11 o'clock, and we're heading off.
Yeah, I'm going to fucking
talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.